Wrestling Show. I'm your host today, Christopher Burton, the People's Podcaster. And as you see, I am not alone. I have my partner, Harry Bernard Taylor, HBT, running the camera. But as you see, like I said, I am not alone. I am with the legend himself, Chief J. Eagle.
That's me.
All right.
Man, Chief, good to see you, man.
Good
Glad
to
have you
have
on
you,
the show.
boys. I'm glad to see you. You're looking good. You're doing a good job.
Well, yeah, you're looking better, man.
Well, yeah, I'm getting older. It's like an old violin.
Hey, man, but you're still plugging. You sound
Oh,
good.
man, I'll do it till I die. I'm pretty sure. The wife says, when's he quitting? She says, when they close the casket. And I may set back up if she says, finally, no more wrestling.
Man, I'll tell you. Man, Eagle, man, you are a legend here in the upstate, man, in the Carolinas, in general, in the Southeast, man. You've been there, done that a million times over. So tell some of the fans when you got started that may not know nothing about.
Well, graduated high school in '72. Had no idea I'd ever get into pro wrestling. My dream was kind of having me a race car, you know. That was what I wanted to do. And my dad was in a hunting club with Chief Wahoo McDaniel. And so he brought him to the house one day. I didn't really know who he was, but I did. I mean, I'd heard the name and I'd watched wrestling and got to know Wahoo good. And there was a small gym in Whitney, South Carolina that trained guys. And it was open about 24/7, long as somebody was there. So after talking to Wahoo and going to that little old gym, I was hooked from there on in. I started out with Wahoo and Swede Hanson just driving a car and carrying them to a show. And I'd ride with them 2, 3, 4 hours and just hang on every word they said, you know. And I was hooked. What can I say? It was a physical business, and I liked that part too because I've always had horses and food and very physical stuff. And I never was a ball player.
Okay.
But this is just what I do, you know.
Man, well, you know, Eagle, man, they say once you get addicted to this business and it gets in your blood, man, it's worse than crack.
Well, it is. It is. Especially if you promote, your mind constantly is working all the time because I don't care what I come up with that sounds good. I got to try to do something next week to beat it. And you kind of let things fall into place. You don't worry about it. I mean, some promoters run once a month and they worry about it for a month.
Yeah.
But it's just another thing to me. And hey, Harley. Thank you, like you.
Yeah. But yeah, Eagle, so you said you got started in
75.
75? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what was it like getting, I mean, because the younger generation, they know what we got professional wrestling, how it is now, you know, and some of us know about the 80s, but not too many of us know what it was like back then, that far back. So what was it like getting into business back then?
Well, it was a tougher business. You didn't sit down and pre-plan your spots, you know. You went in there, and that's what made you a professional. Being able to go in there and wrestle somebody you never met and have a good match. Because if you pre-plan everything, it comes across as choreographed, but especially to another wrestler. But it's just the way we done it then, you know. And
Gotcha.
if you hit somebody, the crowd had to hear it. I mean, you didn't do something like that. You see a lot of that now, but and then if you was a young guy and you was wrestling some of the big names, and I'll tell you a couple of experiences of mine.
Okay.
Was, Brute Nard was one of the first famous wrestlers I ever wrestled. He beat the snot out of me.
And that name alone sounds rough.
But now I wrestled him that night, and then I wrestled him the next night in North Carolina also, and he made me look like a superstar. I'd never been so proud. He patted me on the back and told me I took a good beating. And another one was in Kentucky. I wrestled Bob Orton Jr., Randy's daddy.
Okay.
And when we locked up, he bust my nose, and my nose started bleeding. All during the match, he's telling me, "Looks good, kid. Looks good. Man, that looks so good. How'd you do that?" And then I found out later on, Pez Watley said, he was initiating you. You just didn't know it. I said, well, he sure did. Because all during the match, you know, the blood looked good to the crowd.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, God, I'm dying. My nose is. But had a good match with him. And it was a moment that I always remember, you know.
Man, that's awesome, Eagle. That is awesome, man. And you talked about, you know, back then you had to really lay them in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You couldn't just, you know, do this pity pat stuff.
No, the crowds, you know, the more you make it realistic, well, like Ole Anderson said, he said, I can't make them think that wrestling's real, but I can make them think I am. And that was something I could always do. I mean, even still to this day at 68, I can get a crowd reaction, you know. I mean, I see the young guys doing the flips and all the holds and the hurricanranas and all, and they just, it's not psychology, it's just high spot is what we call it. And you know, I'm not knocking it now. My son, he does a lot of stuff and I couldn't do, but he still don't have that psychology like he should have, because there's so much. People are gullible in a way, not sounding bad, but I can make them love me this week and hate me next week, and then vice versa. Because even as a heel, which I'd rather be because it's more entertaining. Yeah. I got some people I can't pull across to that hillside. They don't. I mean, I got one little old lady. She still fight for me, and I don't care how hard a time I give her. She's ready to go.
Yeah, and I think I know who you're talking about, and that fan right there, man. She's 100% J Eagle. I don't care if you mess around, shot her in the foot. You still be the best thing since sliced bread.
Oh man, me and Dion Johnson, you know Dion. We did an angle one night where he come in the front door and jumped me, and like he wasn't a part of wrestling, but we pulled it off because she went in the car and got her gun. And my wife stopped her at the door and made her take her gun back to the car. So she thought these boys done come in and gonna kill me. And she's still, I don't care what I do, she's up there, Eagle. If I'm healing out, raking eyes, or pulling hair, she's still Eagle. So, you know, what can I say?
Hey, well, you're doing your job, man, because they always say once you get the crowd in the palm of your hand and they're hanging off of every single move, every single word, or anything you do, you're doing your job.
Well, what was hard this week was going out and telling the crowd that I got Jet to come out after turning on him a couple of times. Come out and shake my hand. I hugged his neck and I told him he was the best champion we had. There's still one or two that ain't sure about me. They like, don't shake his hand. And, you know, I'm being serious here. I'm trying to kiss the babies and shake hands now. So I just think when I go out, I think I need to go out as a baby face. So, you know.
There you go. Well, Eagle, man, like I said, you've done a lot. And what are some of the things that you've seen over the years in wrestling and how it's evolved versus what it used to be?
Well, it don't have the respect it had in the younger days. I mean, they was kayfabe. You didn't wrestle somebody and then go to a restaurant and eat with them. In the old days, it was just that way. Just like when I worked for the Pifos, they'd fire you in a heartbeat if you went out and eat with somebody you wrestled. And it's just a different business now. It was took serious then, and the crowd watched you when you was in the ring, and it's amazing how much a little angle can do. I mean, if we're wrestling one thing, but if we're wrestling over your girlfriend, see, that gets them into it, creates drama, and not just a girlfriend, but a championship belt or a trophy or hard feelings or something where they accidentally. I mean, you're always mind's working trying to keep the male soap opera going. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Now, you said there was a thing where back in the day, basically the good guys didn't mingle with the bad guys.
That's true.
And there was a story that Steamboat told. I don't know if you've heard it, but he basically said that him and Flair were having a little feud, and they were in some town in Crockett Promotions, and they were working, and and basically Flair laid him in a little bit too stiff for Ricky.
Right.
And Ricky was like, okay, yeah, what's going on? So he came back and Ricky came back and gave him to him even harder. So after the show, everybody went their way, and Ricky was driving down the road, went to a little convenience store, and Lord and behold, Ric Flair just happened to be in there. And he like froze up and looked around. He was like, walked up to Flair, and he walked up, hey, and smacked him right at the counter. He's like, don't you ever hit me like that again. I'll see you again. And stormed out of there. So, so funny thing was, they get to the next show, and they're backstage, and Flair's like, hey, man, did I really do something to you? What's going on? He's like, I didn't know, man. I didn't know who was who.
When you make the other wrestlers believe it,
yeah,
you're doing good. You know what I mean?
And Ric Flair's one of the best, too.
Oh, yeah. You got, it's hard I love being a heel working for myself, but it's hard to call a woman fat and then go to Walmart and run into her. You know what I'm
Exactly.
I do that
Right.
constantly. And 9 out of 10 of them, even if I'm heel, they want to hug my neck or
Right.
something, So, and I even hear kids saying, "Look, Mom, that's him right there. That's him." And I'm wondering, him what that is.
Right. Right. Well, Chris don't remember Brute Bernard. I definitely remember Brute Bernard because he was a little bit before your time, Chris. So I started watching wrestling in the early '70s since I'm like 10 years older than Chris. But yeah, I remember Brute Bernard, and he was a tough customer, man. I used to love how he used to go around, go and watch him at Greenville Auditorium. You walk around, everybody, Brute. Plus, like I say, that's my middle name, so man, so I definitely was attracted to him as a wrestler straight off the bat.
That's where I get
yes.
Hey.
Oh yeah. That's where I remember that. Yeah, I remember.
Another
Every time I
thing
see
Tom
do that.
Harris was right before the baby face comes back on you. You holler at the crowd, "I got him now!"
Right.
And then
exactly.
when he comes back on you, it makes your day. It puts a little more drama to what you're doing.
Right.
I was wanting to ask you that. Where you always got that from? That hey, pointing up at the sea. I'm like, what's he looking at?
Yes.
They would zoom his camera and he'd have slobber on it.
Yep.
It was so realistic.
Yes, no doubt, man.
The guys would hit him and he'd spit up into the lights and the crowd's like, "Ooh, he really hit him." It's just little drama things you add to it to make the match better.
Brute didn't lose a lot. He didn't lose a lot.
Him and Skull Murphy was tag team champions for years.
Yes.
Back in them days, two bald-headed, burly guys.
Yes.
They just. But let me tell you,
the realism was just unreal.
I got pictures. Brute had horses too, so he'd have Appaloosa horses that looked good for a Indian gimmick, and he'd want me to come to his house and put my gear on and sit on his horses. Well, I called him one day, and his wife's name was Betty. She was a worker too in her day.
Okay.
And I said, "Is Brute in, Betty?" She said, "Jay, I got bad news." I said, "What's the matter?" She said he was playing Russian roulette with one bullet and a gun, and he accidentally killed himself.
Yeah, wow.
I said, "Oh Lord, I couldn't believe it," but it was true.
Yeah.
His name was Bob Bernard, and he's the first one as a kid that really, after I wrestled with him in 2 nights, we were best friends from that moment on.
Oh wow.
Chris,
yeah.
I do think Eagle's referring to Betty Hawkins.
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
You're right. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you a question, Chief. Did you ever get to wrestle Ernie Ladd?
No, but he's one of my heroes. I love his interviews.
Oh gosh, he's great.
He's got the best interviews in the business.
Yes, and I don't know if you was that would have been great too, because I know you started off you was wrestling under a different, you wasn't wrestling under the Chief at first.
Well, I did jobs on Atlanta, but I wrestled as Denny Wolf. Who told me don't use my J Eagle name.
Right. Okay.
And, got paid a couple of times for going to Atlanta and didn't even get to work because they had too many guys. But
wow.
They'd give me a check when I come in, and so.
Well, that's good.
I was tickled.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt. No doubt.
Got paid pretty good looks.
Yeah. But then also it made me good to get a call from South Boston, West Virginia, wanting me to come wrestle Nikolai Volkov.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
Jay Strongbow couldn't be there. And I didn't even know they knew me.
Yeah.
Oh,
But they did. I got a check for that too.
Nice,
Okay.
nice.
So Ernie never got to call you a old drunk Indian.
No,
He used
but
to love to
called
call.
Wahoo then.
Yes,
Now,
he did.
now, I never wrestled.
I think Strongbow too. He
I
called him
worked
that.
on shows in Kentucky with Ernie Ladd.
Okay.
He rode with Pez Watley, and he had a Volkswagen
Right.
with a sunroof in it.
Okay.
And when they was in front of us, you'd see Ernie's head sticking out there.
Oh wow. Wow.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean,
So
like
he's
I
a
say,
big guy.
in my opinion, he's got the best interview I've ever seen.
Oh yes, he's great interview,
But
man. I
then,
mean,
you know, he'd do that interview where I don't like a whiskey drinker.
right. Oh yes.
I don't like to have to wrestle a whiskey drinker. He'd be giving Wahoo hell.
Yeah, right.
You know, yeah.
Talking about is Angelo Pompa's international championship wrestling.
Yes.
Randy Savage.
Randy Savage.
Yeah,
Dead. Yes.
Now,
Yes.
Eagle, but see, that's where I got it from when I would interview you sometimes. I would come out thinking of that. I'm like, oh man, so I heard he called you old drunk Indian.
Yeah.
You know, but I knew you probably caught on to that. But
Well, yeah, they always blame it on the firewater.
Yeah.
He must be drinking too much firewater or smoking that wacky weed. I mean, they come up with something.
that peyote.
Oh yeah. But I mean, I tell you guys, it's a different age. They was real heroes in them days.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Oh yes.
It wasn't a guy down the road that had a pair of wrestling boots. It was people that didn't get their script laid out in front of them, but did it on their own personalities and characters.
Yes.
It wasn't like Vince saying do this or do that. Blackjack and Flair and all of them, they did that themselves. I mean, I even heard Billy Jack Haynes giving all the characteristics to be a successful pro wrestler. And the 6 things he hit on, which I won't go into them, but was true. I mean, you could get by without being an athletic specimen if you got a charisma strong enough to cover it.
Yeah.
Look
right.
at Hulk Hogan. I mean,
Yes.
you know, he's not a worker. He's a entertainer. I mean, what can you say, you know?
But he did have one good match that I saw that blew my mind
In Japan,
against Great Muta.
I think.
Yes.
That I did not know Hogan could move like
No,
that.
he
I was like, holy
Did he do
cow.
an arm drop,
Yeah.
headlock
I was
takedown,
like, what?
bumps over the rope? I've
Yes.
never seen Hogan do that.
Well, between like 79 and 82, before he got into the Hulkamania type thing,
Right.
he was talented. He actually did it. I used to watch him because I remember the feud that he had with Tony Atlas, and he did a lot of those things that he was doing with Muta. But it's like once he got out of the AWA, went to WWF, and after the Rocky situation, all Vince wanted him to do was kick and punch, and and do his leg drop, and that's all he did. So that right there became a stench on him. It got a hold of him, and people just wouldn't let it go.
You know, he's 8 days older than me.
Really?
Oh, wow.
August 18th, he's August the 10th.
Oh,
Wow.
1953. Randy Savage is the same age, and Ricky Steamboat.
Right.
They 3 or 4 of us was that same age.
Yeah, Cena's birthday is actually 2 days before mine.
Oh,
All right, a few people said some things on here.
Okay.
Luke Fury said, "Yo, that's my grandpa for real."
What's up, Luke?
Yeah. Scott Larson said, "This is a great interview. I love the setting. Straight Up Wrestling Show is top notch." Brino Roy said, "Japan Hogan and U.S. Hogan are 2 different people." He's
This is
exactly
true.
right.
This is
No
true.
doubt. No doubt.
hey guys.
Yeah.
So, Eagle Man, what are some of your fondest memories since you've gotten in till now, man, that you would just not trade for nothing other work? Nothing
Well,
other
I love my years of working for ACW, which was American Championship Wrestling. Did a little feud with Jimmy Garvin, Greg Valentine, and quite a few. I wanted to be a heel, but as a Indian gimmick, they want me to be a babyface. But the one night I got them to let me turn heel, they loved it. From then on, I went to being their heavyweight champion, mostly U.S. champions, the tag team champions. I helped all their straps in those 10 years with the shows being on the North Carolina coast. Them having TV in Florence, Myrtle Beach, and Wilmington, and I really enjoyed that. And then we touched on it. Something I love too was my time I spent with Randy Savage.
Okay.
He called me. Now, a friend of mine, Danny Doyle, who is really Alan Goforth, he had went up and worked for Randy, and he had told Randy about me, and Randy said, give me his number, I'm going to call him. Well, he called me one day, and he said, Eagle, can you come up and bring me 6 or 8 guys? I said, yeah, I'll be glad to. So I got me a van, loaded it up, and went up, and they used all the guys on TV, and I got to work Randy, and I loved that. And,
Okay.
on that visit, they invited me to come back in 2 weeks and bring a crew with me. So we just stayed 2 or 3 weeks.
Nice.
And then I come home for a few weeks, and then I went back again. And like I say, I got to work with Ronnie Garvin, Pez Watley, Coco Samoa, Ernie Ladd was there. God, I mean, there's so many. I can't remember all of them. Bob Root. Oh man, so many. Oh, and by the way, one of the guys I was using here that was from Spartanburg working for me was One Man Gang.
Oh yeah.
But he was working. I had him working as King Kong. Great. What was it?
King Kong Great.
Yeah, King Kong Gray.
I remember that.
Okay.
I remember that.
Now that was the first. I had been wrestling 2 years, and I found me an old gym in Landrum. It was called the Palmetto Gym. They had ball fields around it, and they'd rent the gym out. So I run there for 2 years till I went up for Randy Savage, and then I kind of let it phase out then, and I come home and went back to doing the independent shows here and made a couple of trips up there. So I really enjoyed that. And another thing, and I get ribbed about a lot, I was on a show in Lancaster, South Carolina for a promoter named Mert Carnes, and he had his show on the water. What he had was 4 55-gallon drums welded on the bottom of his ring post, and it would float on the water.
Oh, nice.
And they had a rope all the way across the lake. They would pull you out in the middle of the lake, and people would watch it in boats.
Nice.
And you lost by getting thrown in the water.
Wow.
And when a guy come out barefooted, you about knew he was going in the water. But I wore my boots. I know they wasn't throwing my boots in the water. So the referee, he wore a life jacket because he couldn't swim. I mean, it was fun. It's
It's different.
It's on YouTube actually. I've got over 1,000 matches on YouTube under Jerry Bragg or Jay Eagle or Chief Jay Eagle, but it's on YouTube, the match I had that day. So
Eagle, I got a question I want to ask you now. I've heard stories, and I know you probably know better than me, when it came to the world of professional wrestling and people being their characters being of ethnic descent.
Yeah.
Like if you were a Native American and you were in this territory, another Native American couldn't come in or something like that. I've heard stories like that.
well, it's not just a Native American. It was any kind of character that was getting over. You didn't want to bring somebody in unless they was just a better worker, because I mean you don't want to pay 2 guys for doing unless you got a tag team. I mean that's how me and Wahoo got tagged up.
Okay.
Started out working on shows, but no, I was lucky I met him before I was involved in wrestling,
Gotcha.
So my dad died, and I was pretty close to him, and stayed in touch till he died, and his son spent time, played with or whatever with my son at the shows. They was the same age, and just, he would come by and pick me up if he was going somewhere, and the wife would say, now you don't keep him out all night now. I want him back here. So he'd get me in the car and he'd say, she'll see you in about a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you had Chief Wahoo McDaniel and Jay.
Strongbow.
No, not Jay Strongbow. You had Chief Wahoo McDaniel and Jay Youngblood,
Yeah.
both in Mid-Atlantic
Yeah,
Championship
yeah.
Wrestling at the same time.
They had Mark Youngblood.
Yeah,
after
Mark
Jay
Youngblood
died.
came out. Jay died. Yeah, and they, of course, Jay Youngblood was a tag team specialist with Ricky Steamboat, but they both was in the same area at the same time.
But he ruptured his spleen in Kansas City, and when he got back home, he died.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Sure did.
Yeah, because the reason I asked that because Jay Strongbow was in the WWF or WWF back
Right.
then, and he was basically the only one you saw up there.
Right. Well, they was a Jules Strongbow too.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it was.
They were supposed to be what, cousins or something?
Yes. Yes. They was putting him off at brothers.
Jay and Jules were brothers.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Jay Strongbow, he was what? He was Cuban.
Italian.
Yeah, Italian. Yeah.
Wow.
Was it Dominic DiNucci actually?
I would have never known.
Yeah.
I mean,
that accent you're getting, his Italian accent, and you think it's Indian, but it ain't.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but speaking of tag teams, could you tell us who's your favorite tag team partner through all these years? Somebody that you're whoever you most fond with.
Right. Well, there's a local guy, Matt Marshall. Matt Newman. He wrestled local. Actually, a neighbor of mine. Me and him teamed up for years. But the biggest one is Garfield Henry Long. He's from Cherokee, North Carolina. He's a couple years younger than me. We had the same build, same haircut. So we was the IWA, the Indians with attitude, or the intelligent, wonderful athletes, or anything Chief wants, is what the other wrestlers would say.
Well, you talking about Youngblood, Jay Youngblood,
Yeah.
Jay Youngblood, not the huge correction, died in '88 in the ring with Ox Baker.
Oh, he actually died in the ring?
Had a heart attack.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Now, my story I got all these years was he ruptured his spleen and died when he got home. I didn't.
They were working Australia, and they picked him up for a slam. He just fell backwards and told him 1, 2, 3. He said, "Get off of me! Get off!"
I can't argue with it because I really just hear say.
But yeah, I've heard the story what you just gave, Chief, and I actually remember reading about that was the actual story.
That was a massive heart attack.
What? Okay, so
this is my first time hearing either one of them.
Wow.
Wow.
That is crazy.
Quick down there, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Eagle, elaborate, and a lot of younger people may not remember who this is, but I do. Chief Black Eagle.
Yes.
And also, when you came into ICW, you were the son of Chief Black.
No, I was the son of Louis Martinez.
That was Apache Lou.
Apache Lou.
But
now, Black Eagle was in AWA. Buddy Porter and Mike Porter. I mean,
he was both, I think.
He was what was he, Danny? He was Cuban or something.
No, Louis Martinez is Spanish.
No, I'm talking about Black Eagle.
Oh, I don't know. But now I do know that Black Eagle was on the tail end of his career. He worked Angelo Poffo, and then he did do an AWA, which is Buddy Shane's.
You know, the thing about him, he had a strong accent, but I don't know what it was. But he was dark skinned, and he was more of a dancer and doing the war dance. He wasn't really a great wrestler, but he was a good guy. And they asked me to be his son, and I told him, great, go for it. But yeah, the Apache Lou thing was all because the reason Randy Savage put me with him was because when I was leaving, Coco Samoa and his son bladed me on TV. I bled everywhere. And Apache Lou came back in to avenge what they done to me when I went home. So I never got really the team with Louis Martinez much. He just, then again, he was more of a dancer than a pro wrestler to me now.
The two Samoans were up there were Tapu.
I couldn't think.
And
Tito and Tapu.
Tio, and now answer this because I don't want to sound really tall. Tio was originally Tio.
Yes.
Was he not?
Yes.
Okay. Because
in the Mid-Atlantic area, he was Tio.
but see, that tells you how old he was at the
Well,
time.
he was a young guy in the Mid-Atlantic area, but when I worked with him up there, he wasn't that young. Which
Okay.
is-
Yeah, let me we have a question here from Joshua Holland. Joshua, he says, Chief, do you remember the top rope breaking on you in Wahoo versus the Ring Lords in Forest City, North Carolina? He said he's never forgotten that.
Yes, I remember that. I've had 2 or 3
Wow.
ropes to break through the years, and I remember most of them.
Oh man.
So
Wow.
tell us about that story, Eagle.
Well, I remember one in Packlet. Like was a Packlet Coliseum, and I was wrestling a guy named Bob Wire Brown or something. He was overweight, pretty tall, and he bounced off the ropes. And when he did, the top had broke, and he just kept going
Ooh.
out in the floor. But he didn't get hurt. You know?
Yeah.
I actually went around and started choking him with the rope just to keep it,
Yeah.
because I mean.
All part of the show.
Yeah, they say one monkey don't stop no show. You got to keep. Chris Hamrick was jumping from one rope to the other one night, and his foot slipped off, and he fell out on the floor. And everybody said, "What you gonna do?" I said, "Drag him out of the ring. We got to keep this show going." So they brought him back to the dressing room, and one of the other wrestlers carried him to the mercy room. There wasn't nothing wrong with him. Well,
Yeah.
you heard that, Hamrick.
Yeah.
See, there's videotape from the.
Hey.
I mean, that was a scary night. That
Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine a big 400-pound man coming into the first and second row, and he ain't slowing down.
No, he just kept going.
Yeah, so
He just like took the whole rope with him when it broke on
Oh
us.
wow.
And it was wild. I mean, like I say, I've seen it 2 or 3 times in my whole career.
All right.
See, and that's the thing that when I got in, Brody told me, he was like, that's why when you hit the ropes, you always hold on to the rope, because if it breaks, you just sling out and slide on the floor.
I'm
But
a sucker.
sometimes
If it broke on me, I'd probably fall out because I let it throw me back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you wrestling, you've been basically successful in that, and I mean, thank God that you still have your health and you still have it going on. Basically, you continue, man. I mean, that's great. One thing I would like to ask you: do you remember the year that you started promoting?
Yeah, because like I say, I started in '75. About '78, I started running shows in Landrum.
Oh wow!
And then I went from there to Union,
okay,
South Carolina, and I got a building on the bypass. It was like a bingo place, so
right.
I run there for 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And then I left there and I went to. I don't remember where I went from, but
okay.
I had went to the bingo place over here in Spartanburg, Danny. They called it Indian Bingo.
Oh yeah.
I run there for a few years, and then I went to Shamrock Cafe. Well, then for 10 years I was working for ACW. I wasn't promoting.
Okay.
My wife announced for them, and I worked, and we got a weekend every week away, and they paid us good. And
man, that's great.
we'd get our room early enough to watch us on TV that day, and then go to the show that night. And then I went from the Shamrock to the Chesney Coliseum, and I stayed there about 10 years. And then I come to Whitney in Spartanburg, and I stayed there 14 years. And then 7 years ago, I went to Bowling Springs because the old building at Whitney, a lot of history there.
Right.
But though it was an old grocery store and it was plastered walls, we'd make so much noise the plaster would fall from the ceiling.
Oh wow!
And it was poor construction because the roof shedded to the back, but the building had a wall around it, and the water would back up against that wall, and it would just pour in the back. So when the Bowling Springs come available, I moved up there.
Okay. Well, that's
actually
great.
got busted by the commission for letting guys wrestle without a license because I always thought that's bullshit to start with.
Yes.
But
I understand that.
Speaking of the commission,
they shut me down for 3 months and told me I owed a $3,000 fine.
Oh wow!
Well, I was just gonna quit running, and a guy named Ronnie Hood wanted to meet with me, and he said, Chief, the dream my whole life is being a part of pro wrestling. He said, any way I could be a referee or a commissioner or something. I said, well, I can't run right now. I said, I got a $3,000 fine. He said, where I got to go to pay it? So he went and paid it, and we opened back up.
Wow.
And he lived his dream, and then he was a truck driver, and he went to Kentucky and had a heart attack and died.
Oh man.
Yeah, he sure did. He was a good
Wow.
guy too.
Wow.
Well, that's an awesome segue because, like you said, you started in '75 and everything. You've seen a lot, been a lot of places, worked with some awesome names in the business.
Yes.
So, back during that time, independent wrestling was considered "quote unquote" outlaw wrestling.
Yes, yes.
So, how has it transitioned, and kind of when did the commission whole part come along with it also?
Well, the commission, I don't remember the year it started, but there was a promoter named Mert Carnes, the one I was telling you that run shows that had the show on the water.
Mhm.
He would put a keg of beer in the dressing room for the wrestlers. Well, the time the guys wrestled, they was drunk.
Oh God.
So another thing, there was a wrestler that was wrestling for different promoters. His name was the Butcher, and always he wore a butcher outfit with a big bloody apron and the hatchet, and he'd stop at the grocery store and buy him a whole chicken. Well, it'd thaw out enough, he'd come in, he'd be eating it and tearing it. Well, he throwed it at somebody one time, and they ducked, and he hit somebody in the crowd. So those two things right there is what started the athletic commission.
Oh wow.
Wow.
There was a little guy named Chris Hippotalamus, say it, Hightopoulos. He was the first one, and him and Moolah was over the commission.
Wow.
Oh
And
man.
I was tight with Moolah, so that was good. And Chris, they've had some commissioners that made it hard on us, but Chris was a good guy. Most of them are pretty good.
Okay.
And some of them don't like wrestling to start with, so.
Yeah. Well, because of Moolah, I figured Moolah would probably be in that area of the business because she ran a tight ship.
Yeah, she did, and she lived in Columbia, and I talked to her a lot. I don't know why, we just hit it off, and I hated when she passed away. I knew Mae Young real good too. Moolah would run shows, and I worked for her too.
Okay.
She'd run around Columbia or anywhere down that way she could, but
Chris, also, one thing he went and touched on is Crockett was dominating TV here.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
There was there were other promotions that wound up on TV here. Some of that footage has survived. I know Amanda's got a bunch of it.
Oh wow.
But Johnny Hunter ran all over North Carolina, was arguably probably the most successful promoter, according to Ben Throckmorton. Johnny in the Wilkesboro, Winston-Salem area used to have a late night Friday night wrestling show. And Charlie Babb, even can elaborate, was the guy who was originally the host of APW with me for years and years, 1982. Is that right? Or late 81? For between that period and early 83 was on channel 16, Greenville.
yeah, that was
WGGS.
a Christian station.
Yeah.
And my
WGGS,
wife
yeah.
was friends with the preacher's wife that owned the station.
Okay.
So she got us on there. We stayed on 13 episodes till I brought in some Iraqi guys, and that's when the war was going on.
Oh whoa.
And then I had a guy named Viper. He was the Disciples of Darkness.
Hey.
So they called me one day and said we got watchers complaining about the Disciples of Darkness and the Iraqi soldiers, the sheik. We had a different sheik here.
Yeah.
And he was actually a minister preacher portraying but
Oh, wow.
anyway, when they took us off, we went on charter cable. We stayed on charter cable 2 or 3 years, and then the price started going up.
I think longer than that.
And
Yeah,
that's where
yeah.
I remember you guys. That's when I first caught wind of you guys. I want to say late 90s, early 2000s.
Probably, yeah.
That's when I caught wind of APW. And I can't remember the life of me exactly where y'all were in Spartanburg at the time. Where y'all were in Spartanburg, and I can't remember who y'all had doing y'all's video production, but it came out good because you actually had some famous people that actually come through around that time.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you exactly why I started running shows. Cause my love is wrestling. That ain't promoting. That's just I traveled around the country and I'd work for people that didn't know what they was doing, and you could see promoters that couldn't wrestle promoting shows so they could be on top, and they were just terrible. And one thing that really finally done it for me, I went to Hickory, North Carolina to wrestle, and I always remember this. I pulled in the parking lot, and there was their champions, tag team champions, heavyweight champion parking cars. And I thought, well, that looks real good. You wrestlers out here parking cars. I said, that's ridiculous. So I never went back there again. I just started running my own show.
All right. Well, let me ask you a question. Could you name some of the top feuds that you've had throughout the years?
Yeah, especially Greg Valentine.
Yes. Wow.
His motto at that time was, I broke Wahoo's leg and Eagle's neck.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
They run a show at Spartanburg Auditorium, and it was put on by the
George South and the Miss South Carolina pageant.
Miss South Carolina pageant put a show on, and then they run another show. First I wrestled him in a regular match, and so he challenged me to a dog collar match because this was right after him and Piper had come off that. So I wrestled him in that, and so they said, now you want him in a strap match, and I said, yeah. So then I come back. He went over in the chain match, and I went over in the strap match.
The auditorium show he's talking about. And I've got a copy, but it's available on DVD.
Well, that's great.
They've done quite a few legend shows.
Okay. All right, we're going to get after this question and get back to the feuds. But Derek Vanderford, our man Derek.
What's up, Derek?
Is now on. And Derek said you gave him his first job in wrestling as a ring attendant at age 12, 1993, circa 1993.
I was good friends with his dad. I loved his old dad. And his dad's a professional harmonica player. And,
okay.
Yeah, so I would meet him at shows, and he'd invite me to go out to a bar where he was playing with the band.
Right.
And so got to know very good. I always thought a lot of him.
Yes. Derek's a great manager. I mean, he's doing a great job.
I actually talked to him about a month ago and told him I had a manager named something King. What's his name, Danny?
Michael King.
And he sucked. I need him to come down and show these boys how to do it. Because Michael King has no idea what's going on in wrestling.
Well, Mr. King is also watching. So we appreciate him and Brino watching.
He can send money, and we'll try to get him straightened out.
All right.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Missy Childers says, hey, Chief. And Luke, her son Luke, is also watching. So if Missy's watching, then the whole clan is watching.
Well, here's the thing about it. Missy, take care of my kids.
Yeah. The whole Anderson clan is probably watching. So
I love that whole bunch.
yes. There's no doubt about that. No doubt.
So Eagle. Yeah. So what are some of the other feuds you had? You said Greg Valentine.
Well, I done Jimmy Garvin, and that was in ACW on the coast.
Okay.
Chaz Rocco. That was when I finally convinced them to let me turn heel. So Chaz Rocco was the pretty baby face that all the girls liked.
Oh yeah.
So he was the heavyweight champion, and actually we had this thing I did. I'd backdrop him, and the second time he would pull my trunks down just enough to show my crack. Wait a minute, there's more to this. So I've done it 3 or 4 times, and we was in a college show up north somewhere. I think it was in Charleston, West Virginia. But anyway, he done that, and my wife done told me quit doing it. So when I get to the dressing room after the match is over, the police is waiting on me. They handcuffed me for indecent exposure.
Oh, wow.
Everybody was cackling and laughing, and my wife from behind the wall laughing. I knew I'd been punked in.
Oh, they ribbed you.
Yeah, they ribbed me. I kept telling them, why are you arresting me when he's the one that pulled my trunks down? That was my story right there, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go.
So I finally quit doing that.
I tell you a few that, I mean, one of your latest ones that you've had one with Dump Truck, and Dump Truck is watching. So I definitely wanted to speak on that. So
Dump truck, it ain't over.
yeah. Well, Dump Truck, you heard Eagle. The man has he's spoken. The word has been spoken. He said it's not over. So it's up to you to fire back. So, but yeah, Missy said, Missy Childers, she wants to know when Chris Thunder Anderson first came to you. Tell us about that.
Well, tell her I was riding by the homeless shelter one day.
Okay.
I seen him out there smoking the wrong end of a cigarette. I felt sorry for him. I knew my ex-wife and kids needed a daddy figure. So
Okay.
Wow.
I scooped him up and dropped him off up there. And he's done pretty good. He raised my kids good. And, I love all of them.
Oh, yeah.
He knows I rib him all the time about that.
Well,
Yeah.
if
So
that's the case, they must look like their mom, right?
Well,
Yeah.
you know, Lucas says I'm his papa. I ain't figured that.
Well, Luke called you Uncle Chief.
He called me
Chief.
He's just like a grandbaby.
Yes. Okay.
I got grandbabies and grandson that call me papa, and I have no idea whose kids they are. But
All right.
it don't matter. I love all of them.
Oh yeah. But yeah, Zaylin Harris said, you fighting Dump Truck? Well, Zaylin, we just heard the chief call out Dump Truck and told him it's not over. So I've seen this man beat down Dump Truck.
Oh, good Lord.
I mean, times I thought the Dump Truck wasn't gonna come back. I mean, it was just brutal. So I'm just like,
I'm trying to knock 50 pounds off of it.
Right.
Look, man, I've seen the man cracking right between the eyes with a crowbar. I mean, spinning down in the middle, and it was just, oh my God.
But Dump Truck,
man. I'm gonna
yeah,
tell you,
he
boy,
keeps coming back.
He ain't the greatest wrestler, but he's the best talker we got. And that's what I love.
Oh yes, he's a great talker.
He can grab them people and just reel them right in, like, you know.
Yeah, vision.
That's what I love about him.
All right. So
So Eagle, so you've had a lot of feuds, you've been a lot of places, you've seen a lot of people. Who are some of the people that have come through APW that may be still in the business on the local level or the big time that we may know?
Well, like I say, one man gang. I introduced him to Randy Savage. I said, Randy, I got a guy that works for me. I said, he's about 6'8", and he can do a drop kick, and he weighs 450 pounds. Randy said, I got to see this. I said, well, I'll bring him up next time. I carried him up, and he never come back. When we got up there, he stayed and met his wife and worked for Bill Watts and WWF and UWF and another one's Ron Killens. Come to me one Saturday night and said, I got a little trouble with the law, and he told me to find a hobby, and I'd like to learn to wrestle. I said, okay. Well, we talked, and I didn't see him for about a month, and he come back, and he said, I've already trained. I'm ready to go. I said, well, good. So put him out there. The crowd loved him. He was big on my TV show, and Kid Cash is another. David Cash. Who else, Danny? Help me out. Chris Hamlet. Who else? So many of them. There's been thousands and thousands of guys.
Wow.
And there've been some that were big locally, like Eddie Golden's rolling on
Yep.
the southeast.
Well, I'm gonna tell you guys that don't get enough credit. It's like guys that work for me, like Boomer Payne or
Right.
Timmy Anton or Chris Thunder or Nick Fury or AJ Frost. I mean, these guys, they're my family. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they even if they don't work for me no more, I mean, we've always stayed friends. And you know, the thing about being a promoter, you create a lot of enemies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
9 out of 10 guys always got a better idea. And if you don't
Right.
the thing about a wrestler, if he goes to a show and he don't get to work, or he gets to work and got to lose to somebody, and you say, how was the show? Oh, it was shit, man. It was shit. But if they get to go over,
It's the best thing
man,
ever.
we had a ball last night. I mean, it's just, you know, and another thing about promoting, the best wrestlers have got egos and attitudes. They're the hardest to deal with. but they're the best wrestlers. Those egos and those attitudes is what makes them good. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They just and they're a legend in their own mind. What can I say?
Yeah.
There you go.
But Truck said, Chief, no, it's not over. He said, you know, it's not over, Chief. And let's see, Missy said something about AJ Styles. So did you have any dealings with him?
He another one. He come to when I was running in Chesney.
Yes.
Come in and said, "Can I work?" And I said, "Yeah."
Wow.
He had worked Georgia or something, and he said, "But I'll do anything you want me to. I just want to work." I said, "Okay." So
Oh my gosh,
I don't even
incredible.
remember who I put him against, but another one that done that was Shane Helms.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Hurricane. He come in. He said, "I'm going to WWF. I can't lose, but I'd like to work." I said, "Okay, we can handle that."
Okay.
Yep.
Shannon Moore,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
we become good friends.
Mm-hmm.
I worked a lot of shows with the Hardys, not directly for me, but a lot of shows. Cause
Gotcha.
when I met them, they was just two young kids, backyard guys.
On a trampoline, and you know how the story goes.
Well, the promoter would put me against them, and I love working with them. The guys could go, and they left the group I was with at the right time. It was actually Matt and Jeff against Lenny and Lonnie, Lenny and Lanny. Am I saying that right, Danny?
Luscious Lonnie and somebody. But anyway, the guy that formed the other group, he took about 10 people. Omega was already in place, but not then known as Omega. And before you know it, it was on fire. But the other group, ACW, was still doing quite well as well.
Yeah, when Matt and Jeff was supposed to work somebody, and the promoter had told them to put the other guys over, and Matt didn't want to do it, so he left. And when he left the show, Jeff stayed, and they put somebody else with Jeff and worked and done what he was supposed to, and then I didn't see him again after that. They went to WWF at the right time when all those guys jumped and went to WCW.
Yeah.
Got picked up, right place, right time.
Missy said something about Terry Austin, and plus she said until they put to use, and then they see, and then dude Derek, he's asking about he wants to ask about the match on the water.
Okay,
I
touched on that a while ago. That was
he said he has it on tape or whatever.
Yeah, that was Mert Carnes that it had the ring floating on the water.
Oh wow!
Wow!
You get in it. What
yes.
they do? They pull the ring up to the shore with a rope.
Okay.
You get in the ring, and then the people who had a rope on the other side, they pull you out to the middle of the lake.
Oh man!
And if you got thrown in, you had to swim to the shore or either get back in the ring.
The other thing I was talking about was we're going to jump backward a little bit. Was Buddy Shane's real name, Buddy Porter? He had television. And you asked after being on ICW, AWF, and you were on the NAWA TV as well. And Buddy, if you look at any footage you can find, can be compared to like Ole Anderson.
Right.
Because he had a temper that was explosive. He was a super heel, but when another heel came in that made things really unbearable, Buddy would turn good. And he had a good roster of guys. Yeah, well,
MAWA is still running too. Right. Different guys, but I think I don't know if anybody's left anymore from the old days. But Mark Henderson, does he still work for them? He was one of the old referees.
No, he doesn't wrestle.
Gus, Reverend Slim, he was Jeff Victory then, and Lord, I can't.
All the original crew from
Yeah, about all the original crew's gone.
And Red Cowan, a lot of people may not know as the brother of Wayne Cowan. Real name was Dutch Mantel.
Oh, Dutch.
Yeah,
Lord Dutch.
Yeah. I worked him down here in Anderson one night.
Oh wow.
We got you in a match at the high school against Dutch Mantel.
Yeah.
Run a lot of shows.
Yeah, him and old Widowmaker.
Yeah, Dutch is actually doing this. Dutch is doing some podcasting.
Yeah, I heard.
And Dutch said Ernie Ladd is his favorite too. I mean, so you know, y'all have that in common.
And I actually met Dutch a couple of years back here in town at a WWF show.
Oh wow, but
It was
great
so,
wrestling.
It was so crazy because I had a friend that came in town that was staying at the Hyatt where they stay at, and I was leaving my friend's room. We was hanging out and doing what we were doing up there, whatever. And I just happened to come down. Well, he was coming in, and some of the boys were coming in, and I was looking, and this was when Braun Strowman was still with the party group. I can't think of the guy's name.
Right.
But anyway, so I saw Dutch, and I was like, and he was going under a whole nother alias.
Yeah.
At the time when he was with WWF, and I was just like, Dutch, Dirty Dutch. He just kind of looked at me like, who? What? Who? I was like, you. And I just marked out and became a fan. He was like, but he didn't, was like, yeah, it's me. But he knew I was talking about him. But so.
I went and worked for the Pafos, and I really enjoyed ICW. I mean, I was working with a lot of people I'd seen wrestle, but I always wanted to go to Lawler's group, and I never did.
Up in Memphis.
Yeah, but let me tell you what I did. When I worked for Randy Savage, we had a show in Memphis. And so them days, they just give you the address to the building, that's it. You had to go to town and find it. Well, we went to the first sign we seen that said wrestling, pulled in, went up to the gate. Early in the day, there was Jerry Lawler selling tickets at the window.
Oh, wow.
So we stayed there, and he gave us directions to where we was going, but we sat there and talked to him probably an hour before we pulled out. It was me and One Man Gang and Rick Starr.
Oh, no. Wow.
So,
Eagles, can you elaborate? A lot of people are not going to know who this is. Horace Strickland, who was also a preacher and a promoter.
yeah, he's one of the early promoters. He run this Anderson Spartanburg, Lord, the Greenville Mountains, what you call Highland. He run Highland and some in places too, but
He ran weekly a lot of times.
he was a good promoter. He had worked for Crockett before my days. I didn't remember him, but when I met him, he was promoting. He didn't wrestle much, but yeah, I thought a lot of ours.
Must have been under the Crockett Senior Bank.
Yeah.
Sonny King also, everybody remembers, I would say most people remember him, one of the best baby faces.
I remember him for the Crockett's, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember him before then.
Sonny had TV on the North Carolina side. You said you never wrestled for him, but did you cross paths with him on Independence?
Right.
Did y'all ever cross?
No.
Not at all.
No.
He was briefly around, and George Becker did
No.
the same thing. He broke away from Joe Crockett.
Didn't George Becker have a brother that got killed in the ring or something?
It might not have been a real brother. I mean, George had Bobby Becker.
Bobby Becker, yeah.
And another Becker. They was not all.
Okay.
But George briefly had TV, and you mentioned and Uncle did promote in South Carolina.
Well, I didn't know where.
Toward Anderson, Greenwood,
Okay, yeah.
Georgia, Toccoa.
Yeah, I figured on the outskirts of Georgia.
Yeah, she had TV in Georgia, and when she'd come in, she'd use some Georgia and Carolina.
Well, what kind of worker was her husband, Ray Gunkel?
Oh my God,
Was he good?
Ray Gunkel was
pretty good.
Yeah, and
Pretty good.
Ray Gunkel was a big box office draw.
Yeah.
He was a heavy smoker, somewhat of a drinker, and one night after a match, this is an old story, it's true. We're Ox Baker. Went back in the back, and I don't know if he went home, but he did in the locker room, he died. And on TV the next day, you can't do this today. They went on TV and they told the people, because that was before it was split in two groups. They went on TV and they told people that Ox Baker killed Ray Gunkel with a heart pump.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And do you know,
They pushed that too.
that was so bad, and it wasn't true, but it was so bad, Ox Baker had to leave the country.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
But,
he was really, even until the day he died, Ox was accused wrongfully, but the storyline was, he was accused of killing 3 different people.
oh wow.
And funny thing about Ox Baker, man, Ox, if you saw him in person, you wouldn't think, but Ox is extremely smart.
I think so too.
He,
That's
he,
why
he,
Brent
he
Bernard
is,
was.
yeah, he is extremely intelligent.
Right.
Because they actually, I think I saw a clip of him back in the day, I think in the 80s or 70s, he was on Family Feud.
Right.
And he was talking like he was like a dean of a college.
Well, all actuality, I remember the episode of Family Feud, but when I think of Ox Baker, I never think of it. You know, but I never think about it. But
I remember him from the IWA.
Yes, definitely IWA. And I mean, that was a great company for a while there.
If
So about 5 years.
If you YouTube, you can see an appearance he made on The Price is Right.
I've seen that.
Right, I haven't seen that.
Well, you know,
Yeah, he was on the Price. Yeah.
I've seen Bulldog Briar on the IWA, but I worked some shows with him.
Now he was one of my favorites too.
What was the Polish strong man?
Ivan. The Mighty Eagle.
Mighty Eagle.
Yeah. Walk around with have the Polish sausages around his neck and all that.
Nice guy.
Hey,
Yes.
I got a useless piece of trivia for you guys.
Okay.
I just saw recently, as old as I am. You guys know who Leroy McGurk is from Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know,
Before Bill Watts.
Mm-hmm.
Igor and Ivan Putski were put as a tag team over there.
I see it.
Igor and Ivan Putski. And that's before they, then Igor went up wherever north and whatever, and Putski started traveling WWF and all over the place. But I did not know they ever crisscrossed. But I've even seen newspaper clippings.
You remember who was it? Male superstar burnt Igor in the eye with a cigar.
Oh yes.
With
I
a
remember
cigar
that.
out in his eye.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But go ahead, Danny.
He was money making feud.
Okay. But before that, let me before you hit off with that, Chris. Yes.
Okay.
Missy said. Well, first she said Adam Rose. She mentioned Adam Rose.
Adam Rose.
Okay, and then she said, "How the Indians with attitude come together?"
Because I talked to the promoter to let me turn heel, and when he did, I got my guy that wrestled as my brother, Henry Long.
Okay.
Cherokee to come in.
Yes.
And then Wachi had wrestled as a Samoan, but he was really a Lumbee Indian. So they finally give him his Native American gimmick. That was 3 of us. And then they had a 4th member that was, Lord, I can't even remember to think of them. It was,
He had a big tall body.
yeah, but what kind of Indian was he? He was something different than what the rest of them.
He wasn't a Apache or a Blackfoot?
No, he was Tuscarora.
Oh, okay.
Hey,
Okay.
Chris, thank you for just mentioning. Eagle, when I'm drawing a memory on this, I knew him as a kid working in a grocery store. He used to come in every week, but Harold Blackfoot was back in the day when you first started. Joe Gilbert was promoting Whitney in the mid-70s, I guess. And Harold Blackfoot was a legitimate Cherokee and wrestled as Chief Blackfoot. And was also, after he retired, was a regular at the APW matches.
Yeah, at the NWA matches.
APW.
Yeah. His name was Sam Jumper.
Right, but Blackfoot would come to.
No, he wasn't Blackfoot. He was Bigfoot, Chief Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And he wrestled barefooted and had them big old Fred Sanford feet.
All right. So we gotta go ahead and Chris.
For all our viewers,
Go ahead and knock this out.
we appreciate you watching. We're not done yet, but for those that are watching, go ahead on Facebook, hit that like and share and join. And if you're on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell when we have exclusives like this and we bring on people like Chief J Eagle. And if you're on also Twitch, do the same as on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, and join, and hit that notification for times like this also. And this will be posted on our 4th platform, which is Twitter. So when we post it on Twitter, go follow us, and that is at Straight Rest. Capital STRAIT capital WRES 1. Straight Rest 1. We'll type it in the comments, so if my spelling was wrong or anything, you'll get it. But yeah, so that's what you do. Now, Eagle.
Wait a minute. We are live on Twitter. We're also live on Twitter right now.
We're on Twitter.
And plus, like I say, get out and see Chief J Eagle and the guys that he have at American Pro Wrestling. I tell you what, I've been back like 7-8 months when we started this thing. And Chief J Eagle, a lot of people have started with Chief J Eagle. And I tell you another thing, Chief J Eagle, if it wasn't for Chief J Eagle, Straight Up Wrestling Show wouldn't be running right now, because that's when we started it. We started it because of we met up in Boiling Springs, South Carolina, and that's when I came up with the idea that we was gonna do something, and I said maybe start a podcast or whatever. So Chief J Eagle, you found out something else that you actually started, and Chris and I have gotten pretty popular out here in the wrestling circle, and we appreciate everything that we've seen at American Pro Wrestling. We don't get out there as much as we used to, but man, I tell you what, out of the wrestling shows that I've seen, the two best wrestling shows I saw in 2021 came from American Pro Wrestling. I mean, it ain't always the greatest thing in the world. Sometimes some things get out of hand, but this man does know how to put on a great show
every week.
Exactly. Yes, he does it every week. Every week.
When you get where you can't afford $100, $50 WWF ticket, come on out to Boiling Springs APW. We badass out there.
Yes.
Yeah, and speaking of APW, American Pro Wrestling, how long have you been running with American Pro, and what made you come up with the idea of?
Well, what happened was I told you about all these other shows in different towns. Well, every time I changed town, I'd change the name. So now you can say I've been running shows for 40 years, or you can say I've been running shows for 30 years, because when I wrestled for American Championship Wrestling, I always liked the name. So when I started back up, I wasn't SWA, I went to American Pro Wrestling. One reason is because Pro cut down on some of the letters, American Pro Wrestling, and somebody else told me this: if you look up wrestling on the internet, the first thing comes up to American Pro Wrestling. So I said, well, at least I done something right.
Memories. I've got two questions actually. Chris, I'm sorry.
Oh, you good?
Johnny Hunter. I know Tony, his son, who kept on running, and even is involved in the big time wrestling when it comes to the Memorial Auditorium now. Johnny, I guess, was probably arguably one of the most successful promoters of the 70s. He was known to always give you your money's worth. He brought in names, he brought in girls. Moolah was always involved some way there. Ox Baker, the Sheik even came.
Well, something that helped Johnny a lot too was he owned the Krispy Kreme donut business.
Oh yeah.
So he promoted out of that donut business. So he had a lot of connections through that. And when he would run these high schools, he would pack it out. But he always got his money's worth out of us, because you would work a single match, you'd come back later in the show and work a tag team, and never leave before the Battle Royal.
Oh yeah.
But he paid us good, you know.
Not only that, Johnny. I'm sorry to say that. I'm not trying to steal y'all talk here, but y'all, some of the stuff you don't know that I know. Johnny was one of the few that used Lou Thez in the ring as a wrestler. Lou Thez was, he retired around 81 or 82.
I worked on
he
shows.
He wrestled that.
I was worked on shows with Lou Thez. He refereed my match a lot. I'd wrestle George South when Lou Thez was managers.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
I would say, Johnny, I met a new guy out on the independent, and I'd like to bring him in and work him. He says he didn't want no pay, he just wants to work. So I would bring George South in, he'd put us in the first match. He'd say, I got y'all in the main event next month. So that made me, and to look as a wrestler, to be in the ring and look at the dressing room and see all the wrestlers standing outside to watch your match, that does something to you, you know. So I don't do it for nobody.
So you literally had what they call in the business a curtain sellout.
What? Yeah. And nobody wants to be the curtain puller, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it just like I say, I worked the first match, and he'd say, "We'll get you the main event when you come back." And then George South come back and he'd bleed everywhere. Usually what we done a lot was I'd go over, but he'd call me back to the ring and then screw me at the end, or either put me over a second time. I mean, it was just something that was a natural for us. And I'd wear my white trunks and armbands, and he would bleed all over them, and I'd have to throw trunks away after I wrestled George.
We can talk about briefly. I think it was, God, you're going to correct me. It's 88. The night that Johnny Hunter died.
Yeah.
At a show.
When I come in, he was selling tickets, and it was a sellout. And he was so excited about the big crowd. And when I get in the dressing room, they say, Johnny just fell over dead. I said, well, I just come by and he's selling tickets. They said, well, he fell over dead.
Oh, wow.
The attendance, and I can tell you who's on the show. Ivan and Nikita Koloff, Eagle, Jimmy Valiant, and there was maybe one or two other guys. But he had like 10 matches.
Yeah, well, I say you got your money's worth.
And Johnny, he had a heart attack. He didn't die instantly, but Tony and Rick Lincoln was approaching him about, what do we do? And he said, he looked at him and told him, y'all guys keep the show going. I'll be back. He didn't make it back.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, from everybody I've ever talked to, the Eagles era, Johnny Hunter was probably by far, for that time frame, the best promoter in North Carolina, South Carolina put together. I mean, he brought in Sheik, Thez. Thez was a wrestler and a referee.
Yeah.
I mean, there were shows if you went to the Crockett's, you didn't get to see the Sheik, the guy that's. And by the way, that's what Eagle has been doing lately on a lot of shows with Fork, and the only thing he hadn't done is throw fire in them. I'm sure you go.
No, I leave that to our Sheik. To do that.
Well, one person I want to ask you if you've ever had any dealings with is a legend that's only won one match ever in his whole entire career. It was two of them, and yeah, some people know who I'm talking about. Have you ever had a match with the Mulkey brothers?
Yes, but it was in the independents before they ever worked for the Crockett's.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they was from Anderson down here.
Yeah, because I think one of them still lives down that way.
Yeah,
because there's
Randy,
only one of them alive.
Do you
They
remember
both
when they did the Jerry Lewis telethon to take in money for the crippled kids?
Yeah.
They had me and Randy Mulkey at the Greenville Mall on television.
Oh, wow.
And I had a long white headdress, so it went all the way to the floor.
We were taping TV.
Oh, wow.
And I still got it on video. So
And I remember the Greenville Mall because one end was Montgomery Ward and the other end it wasn't Sears. It was another store at the other end.
Right.
I remember those.
Dillis was there, and then Myers Arnold was there. It's a lot of companies was there, and then they just up and left. But I mean, it was one of my favorite malls. But then it got to the point where it was just an upscale mall,
Right.
and all the young people stopped going. People who couldn't afford it. Put it that way.
What they had was 4 telephones, and people would call in and contribute so much money.
Exactly.
And they had us answering phones.
Okay. Cool.
First of all, they talked to us on TV, and then put 4 wrestlers on phones.
Wow, man, that's great.
We were taping TV one night in Chesney for Channel 99, and where we're sitting is up under there's a balcony above us, so you can't really see us, but there's 3 headsets, and that's where we're at. And I was sitting next to an announcer, and I'm not going to say what I said because it was not nice, but I smelled something around. I thought somebody put something awful in a garbage can, or what it was, I didn't know. I said, man, what's that smell? Y'all got to get that out of here. And I was getting ready to put on a headset. I don't smell it for 3 hours. And it's one of them Mulkeys over there, smelling like a dead goat. And and I said, golly, you're going to have to get up and go and do something. But finally he did. He got embarrassed, but I didn't think it was a human.
Wow.
It's awful.
I was on a show one time with One Man Gang, and it was in an old gym, and there was pigeons flying around the top.
Wow.
Well, they didn't have a separate room, so they put up this 4x8 wall so far so we could dress behind it.
Mm-hmm.
One of them pigeons shit on one man gang, and he kicked the wall, and the whole wall fell.
Oh my
And there was
God.
like 20 wrestlers sitting behind the wall, half of them in their underwear. That whole wall fell and hit the floor, and dust just flew when it did.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
That's some of my early memories.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell something briefly, but nobody can top this as a birthday present. That's Eagle. I didn't know. I probably didn't know. I'm sure I didn't know back then, but Eagle ran shows in North Carolina with Johnny Hammer, who was Chris's daddy, and Chris has told us a many times about. He said one year he told his dad, he said, "What do you want for your birthday?" And he said, "I want a wrestling ring." Well, heck, that's what he got. He got a wrestling ring, a legitimate, real wrestling ring.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same ring y'all used on the shows. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know who helped him train, but he was constantly in that ring learning how to jump off top ropes. And
He had sat out in his yard at his
Yeah.
house. Well, I done that later on. I bought a ring put out in my yard.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, so
The whole mess where Nick Fury and AJ Frost come from. They come to my house every day to work out in the ring.
All right.
But it started on the trampoline.
Okay. Well, Missy said the longest running show. You got the longest running show. Then Chris Thunder Anderson said, just want to say thank you, Chief, for the opportunity that you gave me and Blade. Love you. And also, I think it was Chris who said Randy Mulkey tore Chris Thunder Anderson's ankle out of place. Either he said that or maybe Missy said that. I'm not sure. But somebody was saying that. Yeah, it was Missy who said that. So, wow.
And speaking of going down memory lane and everything and all that, Eagle, you got a show coming up that's going to definitely take you down memory lane. And I wouldn't be surprised if you went off to a corner and possibly shed a tear or two.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. How could we forget? We're going to have the reunion show, American Pro Wrestling Reunion, on April the 2nd. Now, that's the day after April Fools, so get your fool stuff out on Friday and come on to the show on Saturday. And it don't matter if you somebody that didn't like me or I didn't like you or you had bad spirits or good spirits, come on back. We'd love to have you that one night. May be our last time as a gang together, but if I don't like you, I still don't like you, I'll tell you when you get there and you tell me. But anyway, y'all be careful out there. We'll see you at the matches.
No doubt.
Are we not done yet?
Oh, I don't
Oh,
know.
If you got a few,
Oh, yeah.
well, we can still keep going also. I mean, because I know you still
Yeah,
got
he
stories.
can make it up to what he wants to.
Because there's an injury story.
Let's see what you got over there, Danny.
Well, yeah, what you
Okay.
got?
Eagle Nelson Royal in 1989. He tried to pick up where Crockett's no longer running around here. He got on TV. He had a great roster like Colt Steele, Tommy Angel, Mod Squad, Sam Houston. And later on, he sold out to where that became American Championship Wrestling.
Right.
I know he didn't wrestle for Atlantic Coast, but he had to have dealings with Nelson Royal at the time.
Well, my biggest feelings biggest memories of feeling. Let me try that again. My biggest memories of Nelson Royal is sitting with him at the show, watching the other guys wrestle, and him telling me, "Man, they don't need to do that. They doing too much. He ain't got to do all that." And I just sitting there hanging on the word. Same thing with Gene Anderson. I'd sit with him, and he'd say, "Them guys need to slow down. They're just going too fast."
oh wow.
You can't make people believe it doing some of that stuff. And, I kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to get slapped in it. So.
Because you're still fairly new in the business.
Well, yeah, compared to them,
Yeah.
But yeah,
But speaking on your show, the reunion show, I'm not trying to cut you off, Chief, but Missy Childers said must be licensed. So must be licensed. Hopefully everybody that we get in the show is going to be licensed. If not, we still love to see some of the old wrestlers come out and be part of the show.
let me say this, guys. I think the athletic commission is BS, and I understand. They actually told me one time they couldn't financially support themselves off Tough Man and boxing, so they need the wrestling money.
Wow.
But that cuts us back on so much talent that we could use. And not because the guys are not trained or good enough, it's because they ain't going to spend that $75 getting legal.
Wow.
You know, because they don't do it in Georgia, they don't do it in North Carolina.
Right.
And there's guys on the outside of us that won't come in and wrestle because they're not going to take that step. But it's not me, it's the athletic commission. But love to have anybody that can be part of the show. If you can't wrestle, we will be talking to you.
Yeah, I mean, even if you just come by, show your face,
That's right.
stand up in the crowd, wave your hand or something, and just get acknowledged, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just about, you know.
There's going to be interviews that night with a lot of the
Oh,
ladies.
good Lord,
Yeah.
yes, man. I know it's going to be interviews.
That's going to be a big DVD.
And
Yeah.
they people ask me, "Are you the same Jay Eagle that was black-headed 30 years ago?" I said, "Yeah, I'm gray-headed. That's all."
The other thing I was going to elaborate on is this group went through about 2 name changes: the North American Wrestling Association and later on South Atlantic Pro Wrestling. The first version, God, I want to say Paul Jones might have had something to do with it along the way, but definitely George Scott. And
Yeah,
they're a syndicated television group. They had people like Ken Shamrock, Chris Chavis, Nasty Boys. You stopped in briefly, but you're still doing independent shows, even though you sometimes.
yeah. Me and David Owsley worked the Nasty Boys on that side.
Oh yeah, I know.
Cause the big fat blonde head one done an elbow off top rope on my belly, and I shit on myself.
Oh wow. Well, now one thing.
Had on white trunks too.
No.
Wow.
Nobody knew it but me, but I knew it.
Oh yeah.
That's
But
bad enough.
Yeah.
if anybody can answer this, Danny, it happened. It could have been 85, 86, maybe 87, but I think it was around 85, 86. Paul Jones actually had a independent for a little while, and he went on Channel 4, and they stopped showing Crockett.
That was South Atlantic.
Oh, that was South Atlantic. Okay, all right. So I was just wondering about that.
I loved him too, man.
Yes.
Paul Jones.
Yeah, Paul Jones, number one, Paul Jones. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna ask you.
Right
Have you
now,
worked with him before?
If you want to Google in Armstrong Alley,
Yes.
they're showing matches of the North American Wrestling Association.
Okay. Okay.
Full shows.
Wow.
Nice.
And you know, they one thing I was going to elaborate with Eagle, two stories. One's funny. You got hurt wrestling Manny Fernandez for
Yeah, he dropped me on my head, top of
Oh
my head.
wow.
And
on TV.
well, the story behind that is I was running with Wahoo, and he said, "Tell Manny Fernandez I need $280 for a phone bill." He run my phone bill up, and I said, "You want me to tell him?" He said, "Yeah." So I told Manny, and I could tell Manny kind of took it out on me.
Oh wow.
But I wasn't scared to tell him. I told him. And Wahoo said, "If he does, I'll beat his ass." But then he left the area then. But he dropped me right on top of my head.
I will. I want to say this too.
I went to the hospital, and they said I had a compressed spine.
Mm.
It took me a while to get over it. I eventually had 2 discs removed.
Yeah.
Broke my Achilles tendon. That kept me out for 10 months.
Oh wow.
Got a knee replacement. That kept me out for 8 months.
Manny would have some very stiff matches. I could see on independent from Wahoo that were violently. You know, you knew it's a work when you're sitting there thinking.
Well, he set me on the
Yeah.
top rope, then he DDT'd me to the mat. Then he set me up there again, and then Chris Chavis. Remember
Yes.
him?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Tatanka.
Tataka.
Yes.
He come running in the ring and chopped Manny, took him on the ring. I just rolled out. My damn neck was hurt. I mean, it hurt me right down in there. You know, like
Yeah.
any time for years I pulled my head down, it would have
Yeah.
that pain.
Yeah. As and one more thing before we end the show. Chris Thunder Anderson said we going back to when you was talking about when you sat with Gene Anderson and Nelson Royal. Chris Thunder Anderson said he has sat with you and heard you say the same thing. So, well, as far as that go, when we get older, that's what we do. We do, you know, I mean, so it's like Chris. Chris, he's into a lot of all the new things. you know, the kids cutting the flips,
Right.
diving over the top ropes and stuff like that. And, you know, I complain about it. Chris like, oh man, you're a little too traditional and everything. Like, yeah, I started watching wrestling in the 70s. So,
Well,
I mean,
I listened
yes,
to you. You
yes.
the straight man.
Yes.
He's the heel man.
yeah, pretty
The
much.
colored man.
Yes.
But
But,
colored man.
right.
Yeah, he'll take
Right.
up for the heel every now and then.
Yes.
Say, I didn't see that.
Right.
But that's the kind of guy that makes it entertaining.
Well, that's true. That's
I
true.
want to say this,
Yes.
guys, before we close out. Hello to one guy, but he ain't watching. I wish he was.
Okay.
Is Alan Mills. I've seen Charlie's TV in '82, and I kind of, my opinion on it was, it wasn't quite as strong as the territorial wrestling, but you could tell they were really trying. But this group, what hurt them was it was all mostly junior heavyweights, you know, majority of them. But in, I don't know what year it was, 80 something, late something, Alan Mills came and ran a show at the auditorium. You were there.
Yeah, I was there because I worked Bobby Rose in the
Right,
scrap match. I tore his ass up.
but on that show, Alan Mills was managed by Gene Anderson, team with Brad Anderson. That was the first independent show I ever saw live.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I said, man, I want to find out how this damn thing works. You know, because you had Lasertron, Jimmy Van.
Yeah.
Oh, you said Lasertron.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what Jimmy Van.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Buddy Landell, Gene Anderson,
Yeah, Buddy Landell. I used Buddy a lot before.
the Ring Lords,
Yeah, the Ring
Yeah.
Lords.
Chris Hammer, Hal Hooper, who was a forgotten name.
They was, what was they?
The New Wave.
The New Age, yeah.
The New Wave. They were way ahead of their time.
Yeah,
They were more like the New Breed.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's who they was copying. They was trying to.
They were in the, but I would say that those shows, and the next show I saw live was Equal Run, and you've got this on film, I've seen it. Statesville. The main event were you and,
Henry against the Fantastic.
you know, it wasn't Henry, it's another Indian guy. Oh my goodness, I can't think of his name.
David Three Feathers.
Yeah, right. Y'all wrestling are fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what's the truth. I never thought they went to the ring as a
Double how many
babyface
people
match.
listen.
These guys go nearly an hour.
Wow.
And the crowd is up the whole time.
Now, me personally, I wasn't a fan of the Fantastics.
Right.
Because it was something about their particular gimmick. I was like, okay, y'all trying to be like the Midnight Express or something in a way, and it just wasn't clicking with me personally.
Well, what happened?
That's just me
What
personally.
happened? Rock and roll come down here, so they had to create another young babyface tag team.
Yeah.
They done tried what was it? The RVDs or the RS something
RPM.
RPMs, and then they had who was it? What's the one that had Shawn Michaels and Tommy Roberts?
No, that was Gagne. They had Michaels and Marty Jannetty, the Rockers.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
that was
didn't
Gagne,
say
AWA.
Now,
Come on, buddy.
Vern, hey, that's a cameo.
Okay.
Vern, Bob Geigel did have, Marty Jannetty and Tommy Rogers.
Well, I'm gonna give him credit.
Yeah.
Bobby Fulton,
Yep.
good.
Yeah, he was.
I worked him all over Georgia. Him the heel and me the baby.
Oh,
He was a
okay.
good heel. He done two gimmicks. He done a sheik with a hood on and a sword, and some curled up toed boots, and
Right.
cause he always, he wanted to do two things on the show.
Yeah.
Eagle, I'm gonna ask you a question because I'm sure you had cable at the time. And I know we're gonna wrap this up. 1982, Tully Blanchard's dad put Southwest Championship Wrestling on TV, on USA. Jim Crockett was not really what you call a blood territory. Independent, sometimes you would see some blood. But Texas, not being world class, but being San Antonio here, happened to be outside of Puerto Rico one of the wildest, bloodiest promotions on television.
But what do y'all think about blood?
What do you?
I say this, knowing what I know now, a little bit of blood is good in the right match at the
In the
right
right
scenario.
Yeah, that's
In the
right. That's
scenario.
right.
Now,
You
if
gotta
you just
change-
have, if
yeah,
you just
change
having
it.
a one-on-one,
That's
just
right.
a regular match, and the guys just look like he's just dumped in ketchup.
But that come through here like a phase too. Everybody was bleeding at one time. When I started working George South, I was serious. He bled on my gear so much I had to throw it away.
Oh, wow.
You couldn't get that blood out of the white gear or anything with white
Yeah.
on it.
But Missy says, Rhonda and Chief made my teenage years the best. I appreciate them so much and what they have done for the wrestling business. I will always be a PW girl. And she says there has to be a reason for the blood.
Well, I was gonna ask, did you think that set a trend back then? Because ECW was a whole lot worse.
Yeah, I know. But like I say, it come through the independents here. You didn't see it much in the Crockett. Now you might see Flair get that blood in that white hair and all
Yeah.
that.
Right.
But the independents, somebody thought they had to get color in every match at one time.
Wow, man, that's
And
just
see,
flat
once
crazy.
again, that goes back to what you said, the psychology.
Yes.
So if you're having basically if you're having a feud and you've been going back and forth with this person and it's got to come to a head and you're in a cage match, or at the time cage matches was the end of any feud.
Right.
Then okay, we can bleed like stuff pig.
Well, there's
I
one
mean-
thing I never would do at Dusty Rhodes them used to do. They bleed in a condom. Pull it down and tie it off and cut it off, and they put that in their mouth. They go out and wrestle, and they bite that condom to make their mouth bleed. It's like a blood capsule. They was making it with a condom. But I never did do that. My biggest thing, I like to turn my tape 2 ways so it's sticky and put it right there. Because it's easy to get that blade out, put it back. But now George would go,
Oh God, he would come all just go all over.
I mean,
Yeah.
he'd be so bloody that, and I could do that if I'm hot and sweating. It's gonna pour.
Now somebody else was and there's a story about it. Abdullah.
Yeah.
He actually, and there's a story out. His fingers, he used to tape his fingers.
Right.
Well, he had blades on his fingers.
Right.
And when you see him kind of like tapping on your head, he's actually cutting you.
And Jim
Yeah.
Tucker done that too. He put a blade on his fingers.
Wow.
And he'd wrestle these little old young guys and cut them. They wouldn't tell him. I told him one time, I said, I ain't got no problem with you cutting me, but don't you do it without telling me.
Right.
And actually go along with that story, Abdullah was wrestling, and this story was told by Billy Graham, superstar Billy Graham.
Okay.
They were working the show. Abdullah was working some Indian dude, over in India, dark skinned guy, and he don't know the guy's name, but he was wrestling him. It was a typical Abdullah match, and
Right.
Abby had him fingers, and he was taping him and getting him with a fork, working him over real good. They said that guy, his whole body, from his face down to his torso, was about as red as your shirt.
Oh, wow.
And they said by the time the match was over, he had lost so much blood. He was a little bit lighter than me, but he was getting about as light as you
Right.
from losing that blood. And he was like, and Billy Graham was like, Abby, what, you almost killed me, man. What you doing? And what Abby's saying, Abby boy, I had to get my heat, baby.
Yeah.
I was like,
Well, they had me booked at Spartanburg against Abby, and they changed it to Greg Valentine. I'm glad they did.
Wow.
yeah, that would have been a rough match.
The whole thing, it went through my mind, this sucker's gonna juice me without asking me.
Oh, my gosh.
And so when they changed me to Greg Valentine, I loved that because him and Wahoo was like that, and he knew me and Wahoo was, so we hit it off good. I knocked Greg Valentine out one night. I wrestled in Mooresville, and when I chopped him, he ducked his head, and I got him right in the chin. He said, Eagle, I seen a flash of light and didn't know where I was at for a minute.
Oh, wow.
Are we breaking yet? I think
Yes.
we're back.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can.
Well, I'll tell you what, man.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're enjoying the show so far. If you have any more questions, please feel free to just bring them on in. I guess he had to take a little break here for a moment. So if you heard the voices in the back, obviously, HBT, my partner. And then my commentary partner in the back, he's off camera, Danny Paris. But yeah, we're having a good time here, man.
Yes.
And this is an interview that's with the Straight Up Wrestling Show that's been long overdue.
No doubt. And we appreciate everyone who has chimed in, who's come in, and who's been watching the show. And I know a lot of people, this has been shared a good bit. And if you're on Facebook, go ahead and share this thing, man. YouTube, Twitter, whatever, wherever you at, Twitch, share it. And because we definitely want you to come on, and we want you to see this. And if you have not, if you didn't see the beginning, you didn't see the beginning of this show, definitely go back and watch the beginning of this show. Watch the entirety of the show, because you definitely want to get the in-depth of what Chief J Eagle was talking about. And Danny has thrown in some great questions. Yes. And I mean, so definitely want to get in here, man, and check this whole thing out. And Chris have asked some great questions, and this is something that we should have done, because, like I said, we actually started this from going up to Boiling Springs, APW. We actually started it, and with another man who's been watching the show. If he's not, I don't know if he's still watching or not, but Michael King, he was actually there too, and he was part of this thing as we started the Straight Up Wrestling Show. Yeah. So,
and if you got any questions,
yes,
like I said, keep them coming. We'll get to them, and we'll ask Eagle those questions. And the man's a wealth of knowledge, man.
Yes.
He's been in for over, good God, 40 plus years.
Yes.
And he's done a lot. He's seen a lot. He's worked with a lot of people that, like I said, some of you may know, some of you may not know, and some of you may have just heard of.
Right.
But yes, he's done a lot in this business. He's helped a lot of people in this business get their start.
Right.
And that, Danny can tell you, that list can go on for a whole another 2 hours,
and,
that alone.
And speaking of knowledge, Danny Paris, probably one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever met as far as in this wrestling business. And we are doing this at Danny's residence.
Yes, his humble abode.
Yes, so definitely, I mean, we will be getting Danny Paris on the show. We want to get him on camera. We have recorded. We have did some things where we recorded him, and we did part 1 because part 2 actually got lost. But we will be doing a show on Danny Paris, and I mean, you definitely want to check that out when we do this, and hopefully we'll be doing this within a week or 2. But we're gonna get him on the show, and we're gonna really get out here and try to talk to some of the main players as far as in this indie circuit, especially
local legends.
Yeah, especially the older guys, man, the legends. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. One person you just mentioned a while ago claims that I was a racist, even though it's not true. But if I was, what would I be doing here with you guys doing an interview in my home with 2 of my good friends that are black in my own house?
Well, it's
obviously not
right.
The truth.
Well, Chris and I, we roll with you. We've eaten with you.
Yep.
We know what kind of person you are.
Exactly.
And I mean, and we grew up here. We grew up here, and so
not in Spartanburg County, but in
yes.
the South.
But I mean, I've heard words not just from my white friends, from my black friends or whatever, and it could be somebody that's of another ethnicity. I mean, because when we grew up, and I mean, which Danny, and Eagle, that when we grew up around here in the upstate of South Carolina, for a long time, it was just black and white.
I tell you my issue with
go ahead.
King and Eagle. I want to talk to him about him for 1 minute, and we're not here to make an example out of it. But when I remember when I first started, it's almost embarrassing to mention this today. But I thank God somebody stopped me. I had 1,000 million questions,
right,
and 1,000 million ideas, and I wasn't a bad person. And an older guy in the locker room, I think it was one of Eagles shows, pulled me to the side. He said, "You know what? We like you, but we want you to shut up and listen,
right,
and learn the business. Later on, when you get your feet wet, you can come back and talk about all these things." But what I'm seeing right now, and yes, King, I'm talking to you, is you've got 1 million ideas and 1 million questions. And I'm not saying all of them are bad. I'm not saying you're a bad person or nothing, but you haven't paid your dues enough yet to where you can sit on the back row of the classroom and raise your hand and say, "I want a suggestion." You ain't been there yet. You ain't even close.
The biggest thing I've seen wrong with Michael King, he don't know the wrestling business. I even had his own guys that was managing call me off and apologize for him because he didn't understand if you're gonna be a heel, you getting heat's what gets the baby over. And if you don't get no heat, you fighting a brick wall. I mean,
The other thing is Eagle can elaborate and know this, and I never have wrestled, but I know the business. If you're a heel and you're getting up heat, you're interfering and you're rough and you're doing every dastardly thing there is to do, eventually you got to get to the payoff.
Yes.
To where something is paid off. Dan Rock a while back called me on the phone. He said, Dan, we used to make fun of him wore yellow shoes, but my Jesus, who in the world will go out in public wearing these shoes? Yeah, well, but anyway, he said, y'all used to give me a hard time on TV. I said, that's our job. I'm not doing this to you because I don't like you. But if you're an underhanded, low-down snake in the grass, that's what we have to call you.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, like I say, man, as far as your character go, I mean, and the kind of person you are, I mean, you and Dion has been friends forever. Okay, you and Dion Johnson. Yeah. Dion has eaten at your house plenty of times. Mark has eaten at your house plenty of times. Your family treated Dion and Mark. I mean, treated them like family. He loved your mom.
That's sweet dreams.
So yeah, sweet dreams. So I mean,
like Angel.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as that go, and like I said before you came in, I said, when we was growing up, when we grew up around here, there was only black and white. Right. And I've heard white friends and I've heard plenty of my black friends say things about people that was Asian, say things about Mexican. They didn't actually not like them, but that's just, they said it, sometimes they said it in a humorous way, or if they didn't actually like somebody doing something, they would say, they would say something because they're different.
I tore him up on TV because I was a Sanford and Son fan.
Right.
Fred used to kill Achu, who is Pat Morita. I wasn't doing it to say that, all Asians are nasty and no good and rotten. I was saying it out of frustration that you are smiling at the fans and choking the baby face outside the ring. Oh, I'm innocent. Mr. Fuji used to do the same thing in the 70s. But King, you don't know who the hell Fuji is.
Well, my whole thing is this.
That's the whole thing.
And one thing that Chris and I have talked about is basically you two actually need to sit down and just iron this whole thing out.
He needs to learn the business.
I mean, yeah, I agree there. I mean, I do think Michael have a lot to learn. I really do. And I do like Michael King. I still consider him a friend. But as far as that's one thing that did turn me off really quick. Some certain questions and certain things that I actually said on the Straight Up Wrestling Show and he didn't know, it turned me off. I will say that it turned me off, and it did. I lost a little respect because as far as this business, any business that you go in, and I don't care what it is, and every business that I've been involved in, and I've always studied it. I've studied it hard. I've had a passion for it. And that's one thing I know he always talks about.
Well, my biggest thing with him was when he was on, y'all wasn't on the message board with us.
I know.
He was on there telling Ace Harris he needed to get out of the business. He'd never be nothing but a jobber.
Oh, wow.
And he told Stunner that too. And I went on there in front of him. I said, boys, don't pay him no attention. He don't know the business. I quit. Wow. I said, you ain't got to quit. That's ridiculous. You quitting over somebody that don't even know what they're talking about. So.
Yes.
Now, that could, if you was in character saying that to their character, that could have worked perfect.
They had more experience in the business than he did, and he was telling them that they was.
Wow.
But like I said, if you were saying that as a character to their wrestling character,
no, it wasn't.
But I'm just saying, if you had said it in that context,
is on the message board for just the wrestling.
Yeah. And I will say this too. He don't know me from Adam. I don't really know him from Adam. You could find out he probably might be one of the nicest guys in the world.
I tried to help him now because he could be an asset to me, but he didn't want no help. He already knew it.
The whole key to it is, like I said earlier, when you're new to it, he'd shut up and listen. You go under the learning tree. And I'm gonna take a jab at somebody I shouldn't, but I am. And I know you're not here for that. But recently we were at William his pro wrestling. What's his Rollins?
Right.
You know, I usually shake hands with most anybody and everybody. I had Ron Emerson walk by. He shook hands with 2 or 3 of you guys. I reach out and he walks by and my hand's still open. So Ron, get to learn who you know, who you're gonna hate before you hate them.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But you know, with all that being said, you know, we like I said, we're getting a little bit off course.
Yeah, we're not here to dig a hole.
Yeah. But I mean, you will have your say when you we're gonna come on and live, and I want you to start off with that, with what you have to say when it boils down to as far as these relationships go in this business. I mean, I think everybody should have their say, and everybody should have their say. And as far as what Eagle says, I mean, when it boils down to it, I would love to see somebody come in and wanting to learn the business if they don't know it. But besides all that, man, we had a great interview tonight.
Yeah, speaking of Eagle, let's bring him back on one more
Yes.
time for some final words.
Yeah, all right.
Let's get him back on here for some final words, if you don't mind, Mr. Eagle, sir.
No, sir.
And let's give another plug to that April 2nd.
Okay, we definitely will. So Eagle, like I said, April 2nd, man, the reunion. That man, I'm coming suited and booted, man.
Oh, I'm looking forward to
I'm
seeing
coming-
some of the guys.
Man.
Have you ever guys seen Stone Mountain?
I've never seen him. I've never
He
seen
looks
him.
like a
Jacked up under the giant.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. He's a good looking kid. He's a deputy down in Anderson, and I could see that boy could have went anywhere.
Oh, wow.
But his first love was his family. I understand
Of course,
that
of course,
because
of course.
I've lost a lot of good wrestlers to wives and family.
It happens.
which
It
is
happens.
good, you know. Danny brought up a while ago. I used to run shows at South Carolina Women's Prison, and when my brother couldn't go no more because his wife didn't want him to go down there, I said, "Oh Lord, there goes my brother. That's the biggest help I got." But you know.
But yeah, Eagle, man. So I noticed on the flyer you've got some old names on there, man. You got Stone Mountain for one. You got Chris Thunder Anderson. You got Boomer Payne, who's a good friend. I was in a friend of the show.
Mine too.
And Eric Anson,
Yes.
another good friend of ours and of the show, and
Yes.
yours too. And good Lord, ain't no telling who else might show up. Heck,
That's right.
Ron Killens, our truth, he might even show up. He might even show up.
Before I moved to that building there, he come walking in one night.
See,
One night, I didn't know the guys, but Insane Clown Posse come in and watched my show one night. So
We do have some other people to confirm it's not on the poster. And I need to go back through a list of who's coming, who ain't. Muhammad Jesse King is coming.
yeah.
D.L. Cool is coming.
Now we wanted with what's his name, Mark Sweet Dream.
oh yeah, yes.
He come in, he got him one of these afros, man. It was that big. He said, "I want you to give me the blackest gimmick you can." He got him one of them big combs to go in his pocket. I said, "Well, I know what we can do. I'm gonna give you a little pretty white valet." Oh, that done it. That pissed him off. But we give him that name, Mohammed Jesse King. He said, "Give me a name as black as you can." Mohammed, Ali was around.
You know what Muhammad Jesse King also really was? Go look at the show Good Times.
Oh, I think he was either a hustler or a pimp.
And
Pimp.
then just look at the
Pimp,
the
because
most
his
violent-
music right away is golly, what's that
Lenny
thing?
Luther.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name? The guy that had the coat that had all the.
Lenny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lenny
Lenny.
the Luther or something.
Yeah, old Lenny.
Yeah, he'd be selling his books out of his jacket. And
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But no, he's really making fun
Yeah, but stereotype.
of himself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, that's good too. Cause I have actually had black guys. I said, "Look, would you please do a Black Warrior gimmick?" "Oh no, I ain't doing that." I said, "Okay, no hard feelings. I thought it'd be something good. You muscle up, you show them off, and like a more modern version of Kamala is what it was.
Exactly.
He said, "Oh no, I don't do that." I said, "Okay, I didn't mean to offend you. I thought."
But see, that's another part of the business that a lot of people don't know. At times, sometimes you got to make fun of yourself.
Oh yeah,
You got to make fun of yourself.
That's what I do.
I mean, it's an evolution of your character and the person that you're trying to become.
Exactly.
It's right.
I will tell you this: there was a guy who wrestled for Charlie Babb. People may not know he did a different gimmick. He was kind of like Kamala.
Yeah, I know
But
it.
he wasn't as
That's who I was just talking about.
Kenny Condori.
Kenny Condori.
Years later, I flip on Florida Championship Wrestling. He's standing there with Brickhouse Brown as a tag team.
Yeah, he was
called-
doing a jam box on his
Yeah.
shoulder.
They're called the Breakers because they can break dance.
Yeah.
it's-
He's the one that told me he wasn't doing that African gimmick no more. I mean, he had a nice outfit. Had the bow around his neck, the spear,
But he
and
was
everything.
illegal.
Wrestling barefooted.
But Johnny Condori was
Yeah.
very popular with Brickhouse Brown.
And see, and we actually have a wrestler that's out on the indie circuit now. TJ Kincaid, Savage Kincaid.
Right.
Savage, and he does that gimmick, man.
Right.
Or as we love to affectionately call him, Num Num or Yum Yum. But
And South Atlantic even had a guy. I don't know who, if that wasn't Ty or not. You remember the Man Eater?
Something like that.
that sounds familiar.
Ty was a Samoan, a real Samoan, but later on came back in South Atlantic.
Well, we done the gimmick one time years ago where I found out I was black.
Okay.
Remember that, Dave?
No,
I was ancestry of Kuta Kinte.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we got a few
The roots was on.
Yeah.
few things. Oh wow. Janet said, "You're Janet." Chris said, "Jeanette, you're Jeanette."
Yeah.
Sorry, Jeanette.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, get my-
Oh, I'm just reading the name,
Don't get me
Janet.
killed,
Okay,
man.
I can't wait. I am excited for that show. She was talking about the reunion show. Marquine McQueen is on. He said, "What's up?" He said, "Eagle, my man." All right. Missy Childers said, "Buckshot, Ricky, Rocket." And Marquine McQueen said, "My cousin Burhead Jones." He's talking about, I remember Burhead Jones.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but
Derek Vanderstreet was in it, too.
yeah, but Burhead Jones was out there wrestling when Sonny King
Yeah,
was out in the
I remember
70s.
He was in Texas too.
Yes.
Burhead was considered what was it, the nephew of Rufus Hardjob?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
thinking about
yeah.
that.
Something like that.
Missy said, "Is Granny Eagle coming?"
Yeah, they tried to get me to do that. Another gimmick I done was the Highway Patrol. It was a complete Highway Patrolman outfit with a mask. It was like a Lone Ranger mask, and we played. You ever heard that song? I'm gonna get 'em, boys. It's the Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
And they
yeah.
got that woo, 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 woo.
It's,
Yeah.
I would do that like Dusty Rhodes done
Midnight Rider.
the
Midnight
Midnight
Rider,
Rider.
yeah.
They'd hit the 3 or 4 hills, be beating up a baby, and the lights go out, and
Mike
they
Madden
hit that music.
will be there, and he did that.
I did it originally till I outgrew the outfit. The Highway Patrolman that gave it to me was a little guy, and I had to stretch it or something so I could wear it.
I wish I could think of the guy's name that did that song, but he was kind of a knockoff from Ernest Tubb. That's what he was.
Yeah. What is his name? Something Brown. Junior Brown.
Junior Brown.
Yeah, he done that.
Junior Brown was almost tongue in cheek making fun of Ernest Tubb.
Well, Eagle, we getting ready to get up out of here. Unless we got a few more questions, Harry. Do we have any more questions?
I don't see anything. I really don't see any more
Oh,
questions.
there's a lot of stuff we like hitting on the Wahoo and the Randy
yeah,
Savage
man,
stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff I'd like to tell you, but we did enough tonight.
Oh yeah, but Eagle, let the fans know if you're on social media where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm on social media right now, Jerry Bragg. Or if you go to YouTube, I would like to say I got over 1,000 matches on YouTube. You can see me wrestle on the water. You can see me wrestle Vader. You can see me wrestle everybody. So go on there, and we in Bowling Springs, South Carolina, every Saturday night. Like I said earlier, when you can't afford WWE, come on down because we kick ass at Bowling Springs.
And that's every Saturday night. And especially April 2nd, the reunion show. oh, that is gonna be
40
something.
years of guys that's been through there.
Wow.
And you know, I could do this for an hour. I could name guys that's passed away that's been with me.
We were planning on doing the South Carolina night in Borland Springs with off camera. Me and Eagle and Missy have been talking about maybe doing a North Carolina show with similar something, because those North Carolina legends that want to wrestle
Right.
don't have to get the South Carolina license.
Yeah. I'd like to know more about that Columbus building. That's
And
closed.
Columbus, North Carolina. That's not available yet. I know of yet, but
Well, I'll send my wife up there. She can get more done. I can.
or we could do Wardsboro or something. But I mean, still, I mean, it'll just be a big night of people coming out for nostalgia,
Yes.
autographs,
Yeah.
the legend matches, the new matches,
Yes.
a big kind of mix of everything.
It's like a big wrestling family reunion.
Yeah. I went through on my computer of all the music. I've got music back from 30 years on my computer.
Wow.
So many names that there was a lot I didn't remember.
Wow.
Unless they done something spectacular or got in trouble or something, I don't remember them. You know.
Yeah.
You know, just like I didn't really think about this till he died. Bobby Eaton worked for me, and when he left my building, he got caught for DUI.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, he went over the curb instead of out the driveway.
Guys, I'm gonna bring this up, and that because one night he left Eagles and got a ticket. Wahoo.
Yeah.
Funny story about Wahoo. Like I said, I was a big wrestling fan. I caught it around the 80s and all the way up till now. And I was in the Boy Scouts at the time. We were having a camporee out of the old Anderson Fairgrounds. And it was 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well, that Saturday, they had the expo open and everything, and, you know, they had some stuff going on. Well, Lord and behold, I'm walking around with my buddies. Who do I see there? Wahoo McDaniel.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy cow. And Wahoo's just sitting at the table. You know, he's got some books and pictures and everything.
Right.
And I'm up there just wanting to ask him questions, and I'm just a little kid, and I'm just like, it's Wahoo. You know?
You know, we used to do that. We had shows at the Anderson Civic Center, and he would go to like the flea market during that morning and sell stuff. Him and Boogie Woogie Man both done that. Sell stuff to draw people to the show.
Boogie Woogie Man still does.
Yeah.
The thing I was gonna say about who got a speeding ticket, might have did a DUI one night, even one of those shows. I hate to mention that, but
No, he got caught for DUI. He'd run over the curb too. Same thing Bob Eaton done. They didn't go out the driveway and go around. Instead, they just went over the curb. And police sat there and got him.
And it was a funny story too, because same thing. That Sunday morning, I'm at my grandmother's after the camporee, and I'm reading the sports paper. And that's when we got the newspaper. I'm reading the sports pages, and Lord and behold, sometime that morning or that day, Wahoo gets caught for DUI, drunk driving. I was like, I just saw it, man, Saturday.
But I'll tell you something funny, guys. You guys know by looking in my home, and my dad was a highway patrolman for 30 years. Retired in 1987 and been long gone. But I told him about that like a day or two after he got caught. And he told me, Danny, we had to go to the Spartanburg County Courthouse. And then he was in there, and the man handed him about like 4 pages. And he said, Wahoo, he said, this is your sheet on it. You might as well set up a payment plan. He goes, what you mean? He said, you've got several outstanding DUIs in Spartanburg County. And they, some of them were paid a loan or were not. And he had to take that booklet with him, and they kept it, and he had to pay that thing off. And that was happening in the Crockett days.
I had to go pick him up at jail, and there was 2 or 3 judges getting his autograph before we left.
Wow.
I still got his wristband they put on him in jail. I still got it in my scrapbook. He said, throw this away. I said, no, sir, I'm keeping this.
Man.
But, you know, that's just the way.
Yeah, I had to go. You remember that guy named Al? Used to be buddies with Wahoo, old guy, boxing promoter. he sent Wahoo money in Western Union. I had to go pick the money up and go get Wahoo
I
out of
can't think
jail.
of his name, but he was actually, God, I wish Rick Lincoln was here. He was a member of the Cauliflower Alley Club.
Yeah, yes. But he was a boxing promoter, not a wrestling promoter. But him and Wahoo was fishing buddies.
I think he might have been a wrestling promoter way back years ago because the man was so old. When I first met him, he was old and I was just starting.
He died in his like 90s or something.
Yeah.
His son sent me a message a couple of years ago, just saying his dad thought a lot of me. I said, yeah, I thought a lot of him.
I can't think of a man's name, but yeah, he was very well connected because he would come to a lot of shows. He had to be connected to the wrestling promotional side of it through the 40s through the 70s. So, I mean, I can't think of his name.
Well, Eagle, like I said, we're gonna wrap this thing up, man. We're getting a little long in the tooth here, but it's been an honor and a pleasure, man, going down memory lane with you, sharing your stories and letting the fans know, you know, when you started and who you came along with and who you got to actually match up against and everything. So right now, this is your time to say any parting words to the fans that you go. The floor is yours, sir.
I want to thank the fans for supporting us all these years, and I love you a lot like your family, and thank you for coming because there would be no us if it wasn't for you fans and my fellow wrestlers. Like I say, if you don't know, let somebody's house burn down. It affects all of us. We all one big family, and I love the kids, and thank you guys for supporting me, and hopefully we can get another couple of years out of this because old Chief's tired and he needs to put his horse up.
The question, though, in closing is this. We know that you had two sons, one's still wrestling, one's not. Eagle, after it's all said and done, I get asked this all the time. What will happen? God forbid, I hope it doesn't happen, that you get too sick or too physically unable to not promote. What do you think will happen to this Spartanburg area with the rich history of American pro? Do you think somebody will take over this?
I never know. There's been somebody trying to take over it for 40 years.
They've had people offer to buy American.
I know, and if I get a lot of heat from guys because everybody that comes in, I say everybody, 90%, it's got a better idea. Well, you ought to do this, you ought to do that. But when I got my money invested, I want to do what I want. If it goes wrong and flops, it's my fault.
That's right.
It ain't your fault because you had a better idea. A lot of my ideas that I hear and have heard before and tried them, and you know, something that wrestlers don't understand. They don't see the big picture. All the guys.
Well, for 32 years in this area, it's been APW. This is going back to Lake Rowan, Shamrock Cafe.
Yeah.
Now, you're talking about long weekly running shows. Who else could come along and make it 2 years? Because it's obvious. People say, I heard a guy say here while I'm back on a podcast about this weekly wrestling doesn't work anymore. Well, tell me, how did Jerry make it? How did Bill Watts make it? How did Jim Crockett make it? It wasn't weekly, it was nightly, but it was weekly TV. If you can only do from 1 month to the other, then it tells me that you really ain't got the money to do it all.
Well, something that's always been a big hindrance to me is I've run all these years with no money. I have no money. I live week to week. The wrestling supports itself, but I don't really make much off of it. It supports itself. I don't do. If I done it for the money, I'd have quit 40 years ago.
People have a knack for finding these buildings that are okay buildings. Shamrock Cafe, it used to be a place for people dancing.
Yeah,
had a good time. Nobody would have dreamed that would turn into an auditorium. The Chesney Coliseum over there was a little pub. There's a pub now, little clean pub. It turned into a little wrestling arena. Whitney Arena was at one time, I think they worked on cars.
Yeah.
Bowling Springs where we're at now, at one time.
It was a country bar.
It's a music and dance hall.
Yeah.
And so you find a building and you tell them you can't put a show in there. Call Jay Eagle, he'll book the damn building and find a way to keep it.
I turn the building around and make it work.
Well, Eagle, like I said, man, it's been an honor and a pleasure,
Chris,
man.
I always enjoyed you since the day you come in the door.
Oh man, it's been likewise.
You said
man.
I need something to do. I said, well, I've been waiting on you.
Okay.
Yeah, because that first day, man, you came out there, put me with Danny, and Danny was like, I ain't too sure. But then I hit him with the old
well, Danny does good, but sometimes he needs a little help out there. Can you imagine talking for 2 hours? And
it's not easy.
I had to wake him up a couple times.
Yeah.
Michael King's gonna bust his ass if he keeps going to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Harry and Chris, I think, oh yeah, I mean, I've got some health issues that make me do that. But heck of a deal, man. I'm not bragging on us because, you know, we don't belong on USA, but we do great, I think, for what we do.
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to tell you, we went together like peanut butter and jelly, all three of us.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it just molded
Yeah.
where we could play off of one another.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this, too. I don't know if we'll get him. God, he's still a young boy. Andy, what's his guy's name?
Luke.
Luke.
Yes.
Yeah, Luke. Yeah.
Man, I'm going to tell you
Luke
something.
Childress. Yes.
That's spooky, man. That reminded me of me as a kid when he recently was a William Rollins.
Yeah, his pro. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a little commentary on, and I'm like, Jesus, kid, he's soaking this up like a sponge, and he's grinning from ear to ear.
What can you say? It's in his blood, man. Look who his dad is.
I'm gonna tell you right now, we might be too old to ever fool with what he might do later, but I would say that's not an announcer later on down the road.
Could be.
No, he's probably a promoter coming up.
Yeah.
Well, Sean was a good talker. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
on commentary, Sean's a good talker.
Yeah, Marquine McQueen. Okay, before we go out, I'm gonna say go ahead and say a few things. As far as what some of the people have mentioned, some of the words they have spoken, Dusty and I and AJ, Brian Bullitt will handle that, Chief. Missy Childer said Chesney was the best in her opinion.
Yeah, she loved
And she said she said I could kick the heels in the head. I'm pretty sure back in the day, Missy definitely would have.
What it was, guys, was it was a pool room. It had pool tables down here and the story up. It had balconies all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
And you could reach out from the balcony and high five somebody in the ring.
Oh,
It was like that much space. And the people loved it. You could, you looking down in the ring and you remember why I got rid of White Cracker? He turned a drink over up on the balcony where he was told not to take a drink, and it run down on the PA system.
And yeah, someone say this: if you see that we're doing this reunion show, you say, I'm not invited. We don't know who all to get a hold of, not to get a hold of. Well, hey, if you want to come, you used to wrestle there. Hit one of us, me, Missy, Eagle, or somebody, Chris or Harry, and I'm sure
somebody get in contact with somebody.
Yes.
This might not be the one and the only one, but
This may be the first one to get the ball rolling.
The
And
last-
1 out of 10 trainees makes it. Right now, I got 4. 2 may make it and 2 may not, but you never know. The human body ain't made for falling backwards and that feeling. That's for everybody.
No, it's not.
I'll tell you a memory about, and Viper has mentioned wanting to come, and please come. Always people come. I'll tell you I think the one thing that spooked us one night at Chesney is was in the ring. I had a guy in the ring, and he went outside, went up that balcony, and I'm filming TV, I think. Gina Stano, my good buddy in Maryland, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, he's not gonna jump off this balcony. I know. I'll be son of a gun if he didn't jump off that balcony.
Yeah.
Hit that top rope and hit a guy with an elbow smash.
You know what I wish we could do? We ain't done since Chesney. I went to junkyard and bought a car. It looked good, but it didn't have a motor in it. I said, I want you to bring it and park it at my front door. We had a hardcore match. They fought out the front door and just destroyed that car. People didn't know it was sitting there with no motor in it.
That's the night that Rex Rumble and
Buckshot, yeah.
fought for a TV title.
Busted the windshield with their asses up there, and I mean, it was pretty good. Then Rex Rumble said, let's run the show together. I said, okay. He said, I always wanted to have a scalpel match. Me and you'll be in it. I said, okay. So we get there and set the scalpel up. He comes and says, I ain't going up there. I said, what the hell? I said, I ain't getting on it.
That's how it usually works. The one that comes up with
I
crazy
had to
idea.
get this little bitty guy that wasn't scared of heights to go up there and wrestle me. I swear.
Yeah, that's how it usually works. The one comes up with crazy ideas, and the one is not going to usually do.
Why I really got rid of him was one night I had the card laid out and I had Section 8 to get the Rex Rumble. He said, "Who's going over?" I said, "Section 8. He's a lot bigger than you, most of the other stuff." He said, "If I ain't going over, I ain't wrestling." I said, "Well, get your shit and get out of here." So I put somebody in his place and I never used him again. But he comes to buy his tickets every now and then. Sharon and Rage was sitting in the crowd Saturday night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Bill Hazelwood was there. So.
Hello to all three.
Rage and Sharon asked could they come back. I said, "Yeah, I don't care." Talking about other people work with me. I ain't seen. Somebody's gonna put me out of business years ago.
But you still standing.
You would not believe. You ought to see my scrapbook. I've got over 100 business cards people have given me through the years. Ain't none of them running but me.
People, I'm gonna tell you something.
The longest and the best show in town, man.
I've got to say it, and I know that we're running out of time. People are talking about heat, and I've had some heat with a few people lately over stupid stuff because they don't want to communicate. I'm not talking about King in particular. I'm talking about a few other people. But for the most part, you're talking about real life heat. I used to have a saying, I enjoy this because I do it on the side. And it's something I've always wanted to do. As all of us want to do it, you ought to pursue it because not everybody gets to pursue the dream.
That's true.
But I'll tell you something else. A guy asked me one night foolishly, he said, "You ever had heat with so and so?" And I was like, "I never had heat with him." I said, "You know what? You would have heat with him?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Tell him to come in here and put a bullet in a 32. Put it in my nose." I said, "Then we'll have heat." I said, "But otherwise, I'm doing this to have a good time and make sure that you got 200 people who come watch the show, they enjoy it, they have a good time, and they come back the next week." But what I'm saying, some of this other mess, it ain't worth it because we can all work together. But some people are too arrogant to set aside stuff to try to work with people.
Well, my wife's not a wrestling fan. She enjoys the congregation of the people.
Well, yeah.
And she's a hairdresser. She's like a bartender. She knows everybody in there.
Yeah.
And you get hooked on her hot dogs, it's worse than being a drunk.
We got people that come and say, "Miss Bragg, I ain't got the money. Can I pay you first of the month when I get my check?" She'll say, "Yeah, come on in." That's what I told her. Don't send nobody away.
I'll tell you something else that hurts us, y'all guys. And Eagle knows, what's Butch's real name other than the guy still in front row, that's my ass. Butch used to walk her. Clyde.
Oh, Clyde, he died.
Right. I mean, think back to how many years you've been running that you would see Betty Friday and Butch and all these people. I mean, here a while back I was watching a tape of one of our tapings, and there were several people in the crowd that were and they're dead. And I mean, I told somebody, I said, that made it hard for me to watch, but not because of the wrestling product. But when they pan to the crowd,
And you see
I see a lot of that.
and I see 6 or 7 people.
Which we got.
Eagle,
we're closing it down.
We are shutting it down. But once again, we thank Chief J Eagle for being a guest on the show, the Strap Wrestling Show. Like I said, it's been a long time coming, and we finally got him here. Thank you once again. And April 2nd, Bowling Springs, South Carolina, the reunion show. Be there. It's going to be the hottest ticket in town.
And every Saturday night after that.
There you go.
And we would like to thank Missy Childers for all the hard work she's doing on this show.
Yes.
And man, definitely come out and see that.
Yes, definitely come out and see it.
Love you, Missy. Take care of my babies.
Yes.
And we want to thank you, the fans, sending your questions and watching the show and everything. I hope you've enjoyed it. And once again, for myself, Christopher Burton, the People's Podcaster, my partner, Harry Bernard Taylor, HBT, my man in the back, Danny Parrish, my commentary buddy, and for the man, the guest of the hour, Chief J Eagle. Thank you very much, and we'll see you.
Chris, one last thing. I want to say hello to the ladies. Get well.
Okay.
I know you want me to shut up, and I will.
Daddy, shut up.
There's a lady that comes to the match, has been coming for a long time, and been sick. And Eagle knows who she is. She's not missed. She's missed the last 2 shows or 3 shows. Miss Nancy Human.
Oh, yeah, I thought you was gonna say Dorothy Jumper.
Well, I don't know her.
That's another that comes in
She's-
the way.
But Miss Nancy's been in hospitals recently. Get well, come back and see us.
All right, Nancy, yo, somebody knows Nancy, sends us to her, and you get better and come back out to APW. All right, and once again, like I said, Christopher Burton, People's Podcaster, Harry Bernard Taylor, HBT, and the man of the hour, Chief J Eagle. We are out. Keep it straight up.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
you.
Peace
Peace.
out.
There you go.
But man,